used to do the.
She was a Forster. Jody. I don't know why I was blank on that. Oh yeah, I see Angie there. You ready to roll?
Good God, man.
Okay, we're getting ready to go here any minute. Do you guys want to sit down, or y'all just you standing up?
Chief told them they couldn't sit down.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Ruidoso regular council meeting. It's February the 14th, 1 o'clock. Hopefully everybody got their Valentine's something.
Yep.
So anyway, it's a little late if you didn't. So if you will stand with me, and I'll ask the Mayor Pro Tem to give us an invocation, and then we'll do the pledge.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, you may be seated. And Oscar, if you guys want to find a seat, you're welcome to squeeze in there anywhere. Thank you for all attending on this beautiful snowy day. And I was glad to see the Parks and Rec got to try out some new equipment we're all excited about. So I hear it worked well. So if we can have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Councilor Loderman. Here. Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Hooker.
Here.
Councilor Coughlin.
Here.
And Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, and if I could get approval of today's agenda, giving the chair the ability to move the agenda around, please.
Mr. Mayor, move that the agenda be approved as presented and allow the chair to move items for discussion as needs must.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Could we have regular item number 3 removed?
Sure, we can do it that way. I was going to have item number 3 removed. Well, now I forgot where I had it. If you can add that, Counselor, it's due to the clarification issues for the New Mexico Self-Insured Fund regarding insurance and property and artifacts. I wanted to see if we could change the motion at this time.
If you would allow a friendly amendment to omit item number 3 for discussion from the agenda and all others hold as presented.
I second that.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please, ma'am.
Councilor Jackson.
Aye.
Councilor Hooker.
Aye.
Councilor Eby. Aye. Councilor Letterman. Aye. Councilor Salas.
Aye.
And Councilor Coughlin.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and go to the consent regular items, and I want to get the police department and everybody that we can back out. Consent regular items, number 1, approval of governing body minutes, workshop meeting, January 3rd, 2023. Special meeting of January the 3rd, 2023. Regular meeting of January the 10th, 2023. Special meeting of January the 25th, 2023. Strategic planning workshop of January the 24th through the 25th, 2023. Workshop meeting February the 7th, 2023. So more than one meeting a month, so y'all got lied to again. So item number 2, approval of certificate of records destruction number 2023-002. Number 3 is the approval of amendment to memorandum of understanding MOU between the Village of Ruidoso, the County of Lincoln, as an administrative authority for the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office for driving while intoxicated, the DWI prevention enforcement activities, and reimbursement of costs, increasing the amount to $6,000. Item number 4 is approval of resolution 2023-03, a resolution amending personnel policy chapters 13 through 17, glossary of terms. Item number 5, approval of request to schedule a public hearing on March 14th, 2023 for consideration to remove Ruidoso Ordinance 14-5, license tags, and to remove portions of Appendix A, fees, fines, and penalties related to dog and cat licenses and tags. Item number 6 is approval of request to schedule a public hearing for transfer of a dispenser-type liquor license application for BW Gas and Convenience Retail, Allsups located at 1201 Meacham Drive, Ruidoso, New Mexico. That's your 6 items.
Mayor Crawford?
Yes,
On that last item, number 6, to schedule a public hearing for a liquor license for the Allsups, we need to be for a special meeting sometime in March. And I'll reach out to the governing body for a date everyone is available. We
Okay.
couldn't do it for the regular meeting because of the amount of time required for publication.
by the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the council's always good about trying to meet and be at the disposal of anybody and everybody.
Heck, look at January, that tells you.
Yeah. So, okay, that'll work. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, move to accept and approve the consent regular items as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Eby? Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor? All right, we'll move on. Thank you, everybody. I want to jump over the public input at this time. I want to go to mayoral reports and presentations so that we can get some of these good folks back out to work. Some have been out all night. I'd like to say a special thank you to Josh and his staff, Parks and Rec. They did an awesome job removing the snow, staying on top of things, getting the sidewalks and everything clean downtown. So once again, you guys shine. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
We got loaded up with paperwork, and I want to make sure I get you the right one. But I'm going to start off with presentation of new employees and promotions. It's always a fun time. We will start off with promotions. Alex Valdez, promoted from Recreation Leader to Recreation Leader 2/Administrative Assistant, effective January the 15th, 2023. So stand up and wave at everybody.
Yay.
She's been a real joy and starting to move around, so we're real happy with her. The next guy's made a big splash since he showed up, not just because he likes wearing cowboy hats, and he has quite a few. We're trying to see the rest of them. All we see is the dirty brown one that I offered to clean for him one time, and he said no, he likes it that way. So that's just Oscar Ulate for you. He was promoted from Parks Foreman to Parks and Recreation Supervisor, effective January 25th. Thank you, Oscar. Jeremy Nocella, promoted from Parks Foreman to Parks and Recreation Supervisor, effective January the 25th, 2023. Jeremy?
Yay.
Those two guys do really, really good. They're the kind of the yin and the yang of the whole department. Then the next guy, long overdue, has been around for a long time, done a great many things there, and I see him sitting in back in the back. We're fortunate to have him and for him to stay on. David T-Bone Terrell, promoted from Parks and Recreation Supervisor to Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation, effective January the 25th.
Yay.
And we thought we were going to lose him. Now we got him for 3 to 5. So we're happy about that. Matthew Baird, I heard he was on one of the new pieces of equipment in Midtown today. Matthew Baird, promoted from Recreation Director to Parks and Recreation Director, effective January the 25th, 2023.
Yay.
Cristela Armijo, promoted from, and when we promote people from in, it backfills, so we still have some issues we're pulling back. But this gal shines. She's super smart, has a lot of other talents that we didn't even know she had until she applied for this, and we were really kind of blown away. Cristela Armijo, promoted from Capital Projects Manager to an Assistant Finance Director to Water Resource Director, effective February the 12th, 2023. So thanks, Chris. It's an important job, and so we're looking forward to that, but she's still helping us out in the other department because we do have openings on that, and we do have quite a few good applications. New employees, Casey McCarty, firefighter, date of hire January 29, 2023. I saw him walk in. Hey, Casey, welcome. Come in. And he was in the military.
Yes, sir.
What else did you do? You got a big voice.
I was born and raised captain. I joined the military after graduation. Named reserves. Went on deployment to Guam, and now I'm here.
Well, we're glad you're here, and you've got
welcome.
the customary stash already going, so you're going to fit in real well. All right. Well, thank you very much. Joe Valles, Parks Maintenance Worker, date of hire 2/13. Did I say it right? Is it Valles or Valles? Valles. Where are you from? Las Cruces. So you're here in Ruidoso. Good.
Yeah, I've been here for 5.5 years.
5.5 years. We're very glad to have you. Hopefully you like everything that you're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. Did you get to run any of the new equipment today?
Not yet.
Oh, they're just the top dogs. They're good. Yeah. I know how it is. They'll wear the new out for it.
Start with the shovel.
Yeah. Okay, now brings us to 2022 Employees of the Year. And we had employees because we had the employees of the Village of Ruidoso, which we have well over 200, all cast their votes. And the people that came in from the employee committee said, you know, we don't know what to do. We have a tie. And we've counted them, and we've counted them, and we've counted them. So what do? You eeny, meeny, miny, mo? No.
All three?
That's not what we did. We said we wanted all three. They deserve it. So Sydney Mowry, come on up. Terry Yarbrough, come on up. And Deborah Neal.
Yay, Deborah.
There she is. So in just recognition of your outstanding award, time and gifts that you do and your good attitudes, even you. Even him. His great attitudes and the work ethic that you guys do, that you really shine and promote everything that is the Village of Ruidoso. So we so much appreciate you. So Deborah, here's a little token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
Did you already get the gift certificates?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sydney Mowry's in Parks and Rec. Deborah's in the dispatch department for the police department. That's a tough job. If most of you don't know, you just think about it. The first responder, the phone call, you're having to walk people through a lot of things, maintaining your composure, your calm, and then being able to move on for the rest of your day. So we appreciate that. And then another bright, not just her hair, but her bright spot in Parks and Rec. And also she and her husband and another group have started Oso Productions, so they're all about the community. Cindy's done a great job there, and so we're really glad to have it. And then Terry, been over at the water. Come on over here, Terry. This is yours. And has, yeah, don't break it. It's made out of paper. But anyway, we appreciate you guys so much and everything that you do.
Thank you.
And staying with the village and working, doing all that you do. So once again, we appreciate you. Employees of the year.
Good job.
We recognized them at the awards banquet that we had, the awards luncheon. So this is just a repeater that we want to make sure it's official. But thank you to these guys. So then to the Department of the Year is a group that has made some transitions this year, thanks to Chief over here, community outreach, community policing, and then we've had the Police Academy, Citizens Police Academy that's been a big success. And so it's really nice when we see our officers reaching out to the community. We've been able to promote within, and so we're so lucky to have the men and women that we have working in that police department. So they are the Department of the Year.
Yay.
Come on up, Chief. And then as a gift to the Ruidoso Department of the Year, K-Bob's is giving you $15 vouchers to give to 36 employees. Is that right? Okay, let me know if we need more.
Congratulations.
So thank you, Chief. Appreciate you. Oh, here you go, Chief. We'll have to get you guys. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good job. Good job, BC.
Thank you, DC. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Sal.
Spread those around.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Sal.
Oh, she got a hug. I want a hug. Thank you, Laura.
I'm not gonna jerk it over the counter now. Congratulations. Thank you.
Hey, you, I never see you around anymore.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Oh, man, come on.
Good job, Bobby. Good job, Bobby. Thank you.
Squeeze in there so you get all
Get
in
your
there.
photo.
Donuts.
They all turned around and smiled.
Good job, buddy. Good to see you, Bobby.
But so many of these folks do other things like coaching youth, in wrestling. Lieutenant Urban, he's already probably been out the door. He and his wife and others through the Young Guns Wrestling Program had over 1,000 applicants a couple of weeks ago at the convention center, which brought 2,000 to 3,000 people to the community. Very positive. I was just talking about you, Lieutenant, so you got to be careful when you're in. But he and his wife do a good job in the community, but promoting a positive perception of our police department. Because, most of the time when people call the police, it's something bad's happened. It's either health related or something else that's happened. So these guys are promoting the fact that you're going to have a friendly face show up, somebody that you know is on your side. And so we appreciate all that you do, and the other officers that we have that coach the basketball and all the other things that go on over at the Horton Complex. So thank you for everything you do, and we appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it.
So we're real proud of those guys, as you can tell. Now they can all go to work. Because these guys were out working all night while we were at home snug as a bug, and did a great job on the streets and the sidewalks so our downtown businesses could operate. I know for years when I was down there, I did my own shoveling. And now then, it's just one of the amenities that we provide for the Midtown, because after all, we make our money through gross receipts tax. And we only do good when our businesses do good. And so it only makes sense that if people can't get in to shop, it hinders us all. So I appreciate those guys in Parks and Rec for doing all that. Okay, now then we'll get on to a little presentation that we have. The gentleman called me to talk about a study that he's going to do on the McBride fire. And so we wanted to bring him in so he could tell us a little bit about it. I'm not done yet. Thank you. I'm moving on. I got an agenda here. So you're right. I take it back. You're right. I jumped right over environmental stewardship, but I wanted to get Mr. Mr. Pacluda up. So you want to come up here to the front and give us, what you're going to be doing your study on. Touch it and it'll turn green.
Oh.
There you go. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would, sir.
Okay, my name is Vince Pacluda. I'm the former Assistant County Manager for Donna Ana County. I retired in 2019, and I decided that life had a little more to offer, so I decided to chase a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. I'm glad to report that for what I'm seeing here, you have a very healthy organization. I commend you on that. And that comes from somebody outside, especially from Texas. But I'm doing my dissertation work on the psychology of recovery from a disaster. Okay? This has nothing to do with numbers. This is basically a qualitative, psychological, phenomenological study of participants who are recovering from a disaster. Now, some initial work has been done on this with reference to tornadoes, earthquakes, and a few other things. So as this study starts to roll and get some momentum, I'll be here often enough. The chief knows me. I'm legitimate. So, in fact, I'll tell you something about the chief after the meeting. But the idea is to take a deeper look into what happens with folks after disaster. Now, this has a direct bearing on what you folks are doing here today. It has a direct bearing on governments, because more and more local government is at the point of the spear in trying to ameliorate some of the effects of fires, tornadoes, floods, you name it. You guys get the brunt of it. So I decided early on, when I was looking at a study, would be to do something like this. So God willing, if I'm young enough to finish this dissertation and get my PhD, I can do some more work on this. Anyway, we won't start looking at data collection, active interviews, until probably late fall of 2023. We're definitely going to be rolling by 2024 because Grand Canyon University, even though I like them and I love them to death, they want me to finish up by 2025. So I'm under the gun. This is a fully funded study. I'm coming to you open hands, not begging or anything. I'm paying for everything, every last bit of this, to include the time in association with the participants who I may recruit from your community for this study. And as I would say in Donahanna, I would stand for questions, but you guys were folks nice enough to provide me with a chair. So I appreciate, so if anybody has any immediate questions, I'll make this pretty quick.
Does anybody have any questions? So basically, your point is you're going to gather information to see how people have been affected and then into the mode of recovery and what, I mean, would it then lead into what a community should have on the ready or make things available to those folks for recovery?
Well, it's not going to say what you should have, because I worked in government. I know what you guys go through. Basically, I understand that, you can't buy everything under the sun to provide for people, but you do what you can. So I'm going to basically bring out some of the chief issues that crop up and things that'll make it a little bit easier for you to deal with, such as a flood, snowstorm, whatever that may come and befall a community. Because like I said, you guys are at the forefront these days. And it's a tough job.
And so with the information gathered, the whole point is to find out what the results of that, and then out of that, we should be able to find out what maybe other resources we need, because we do so much emergency response training, and there's always something around the corner that, that we quite didn't prepare for, but of giving people access or making available to folks, because I know people that were burned out during the fire, that they're having some emotional issues, PTS type things that are going on, so that we you don't think about those things. We're thinking about the immediate, putting the fire out, some shelter, some food, and then moving on, and then you kind of move on to the next deal. So I appreciate you looking into this, and we're looking forward to the results. So maybe it's something we can all learn.
And by the way, you get a copy of it.
Awesome.
Comes in a leather binder once I get my diploma.
Oh, awesome. So are you going for like the most senior PhD recipient, or?
No, I'm not the most senior. In fact, they had a graduate this last spring. He was 84.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations to him.
So let's see if I can meet that deadline.
Yeah, beat that deadline. All right, well, we appreciate you very much. Thank you for taking your time.
Appreciate it.
And then, I'm sorry, Andrea, I was going to, and I'm still going to do it. I was going to call you up for you to read it, since you're the one that inspired it. So you want to come up now? So this is, she's always talking about environmental stewardship, and we try to do things when we're working with environmental, riparian waterways, fish habitat restoration, all of these things we're working on. And she's talking about things of sustainability, food, the apricots, the apples, all these kind of things. So she contacted us about, what could we do? So we have a proclamation as 2023 is Year of the Environmental Stewardship. So if you would, you can read it.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, and the supporters of this proclamation. I'll go ahead and just quickly say, we have members that help organize the proclamation. I want to introduce Aaron and Stacy and Timia back there. And Robin has been part of our group. And we have Dr. Clemens, who's not available today, and also Pat Brent, who helped. So, all right. So, whereas environmental stewardship is a community value that acknowledges the environmental challenges of our time, and whereas the village's measures thus far have shown leadership through awareness and project implementation, and recognizes that greater vigilance, action, and commitment is required. And whereas the cost of resources, production, and disposal of goods are rising, and minimizing single-use plastic like water bottles and grocery bags is part of the solution. And whereas the best way to tackle our waste problem is to encourage a culture of environmental stewardship by supporting education, tools, and resources that support community efforts of waste reduction in our homes, organizations, and institutions. And whereas all stakeholders are encouraged to step up their guardianship role of the environment, to come together for the future of our planet, our health, our children, our grandchildren, and animals, to reduce our plastic, water, energy, food, and resource waste not mentioned.
So, therefore, now be resolved that I, Lynn D. Crawford, Mayor of the Village of Ruidoso, do hereby proclaim 2023 as the Year of Environmental Stewardship. Proclamation this 14th day of February, 2023, Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Yay.
Yeah. Good job.
So we appreciate these guys, reminding us, and a lot of these things that it takes time and it takes practice, and it all starts individually. So we're good that we get to see Jody. Again, we don't get to see her very often. And of course, our Mr., I always laugh at eco servants that Mayor Tom Batten always calls you eco servants, but eco servants, these guys do remarkable work on different things. And so,
If we could have everybody maybe.
absolutely, get up here and take a
Yes,
picture.
get up and get a picture, man.
And then you got some things in your hands, so you
Yeah.
let us know what it's about.
All right. Well, we'll take our picture, and we thank you all so much, and we hope that we can do better, and we want to encourage everybody in their institutions to encourage reduction of one-use plastic, and we have some swag today. So, sorry. Yay. All right. So we have reusable water bottles and reusable bags. So y'all get to take your pick, and we want to thank the young people for coming out today and helping us, because it's for them.
Yay.
Please raise your hand if you're ready to try a reusable bag.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And with this proclamation, thank you very much, I appreciate it, thank you.
Yes, I'll take one, Stacy. Thank you very much.
And let's do this, guys. It's important.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank y'all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for signing this.
Good job,
Thank
Timia.
you so much, it's good to see you.
You won't be stranded in Santa Fe without
No,
your
that's
bag.
right. We're leaving
Thank you.
tomorrow. I'll take it with me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll move on. I thought these guys were lower down on the agenda. Where is, Yvonne, do you have the list for public input? Should be over here.
Mayor, there was no one who signed up.
Okay. And then we'll move on after the environmental stewardship. We'll move on to item number 5 is the Lincoln County Community Emergency Response Team CERT program presentation. And I saw him yesterday at lunch, and I thought, man, I know this guy from somewhere, right?
Yes, sir.
At K-Bob's, and I should have walked over, but my wife says I talk too much at lunch anyway. So we're glad to have you. Just tell everybody who you are and what we're up.
Good afternoon, and thank you for putting up with me and listening to my presentation on Lincoln County CERT program. My name is Robert Barber. I've been a resident of the county for a very long time, off and on, and that. I have a background of first responder service as an EMT and a volunteer firefighter, as well as I spent about 8 years with the American Red Cross as a volunteer leader here in the county. And after I left the Red Cross, I had to fill my time, and one of the things that I seen when I was doing my Red Cross work is a need for community activities such as this CERT program to help make the county more resilient in times of disaster. And that, next slide, please. So what is a CERT? A CERT is a group of organized volunteers that are trained in a consistent national-wide movement and approach to both prepare for, respond to, and recover from natural and man-made disasters. It's a way for us to come out and help the communities. Next slide. The CERT program, there's no cookie-cutter approach to CERT programs, even though it's a nationwide. The CERT programs were initially started in the 80s in Los Angeles with the Los Angeles Fire Department, based on the earthquakes at that time, as well as the studies they did with Japan, and how Japan approached their natural disasters. Like I said, each program is unique in its own right, depending on its environment. Where states on the east or west coast might prepare for hurricanes, typhoons, and those sort of things, we're going to be geared around fires, wildfires, flooding, search and rescue, a little bit of everything in preparation for. In addition to responding to emergency events, CERT volunteers will also be available to help support the community through non-emergency events, with public education, assisting with parades, community events, county fairs, and different things where we could be out in that. Not only do CERT programs respond and help fire departments, but we're also here to help with police activities, road closures, and different things, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next slide, please. Mission statement. Our mission statement is basically to make the county and our citizens more resilient in times of need, to be prepared for, be able to respond to, and recover quicker from natural disasters. Next slide. The mission of the CERT program and CERT volunteer teams is for all three phases of a disaster: preparing for, responding to, and recovery from. In preparing for, we'll train groups of volunteers and citizens that are often there before first responders get there, especially when it occurs around where they're living or where they're working. And so they can be that gap filler while there. And then on major disasters, where first responders can get overwhelmed, we can pick up some of the slack in the background, the non-emergency or the non-hazardous activities, logistics, and those kinds of things to help them. But preparing for, we train these people to be able to do these things. We plan for it. We participate in exercises and events with other first responders. We're, in a way, like Joe Kenmore, who's our sponsor with the government, says, we're a force multiplier. When it comes to responding to disasters, we can assist the police with road closures, light search and rescue, notifying people of evacuation notices and the like, provide communication sites and help with them. One of the things that we hope to do is partner with the Sierra Blanca Amateur Radio Club so that we can help provide communications that way. And then, in case of need, open shelters, evacuation centers, reunification centers as needed until somebody like the Red Cross or somebody else can come in there. We fill that gap because we're here. And then recover from, we want to help a lot of the first responders and governments by being a source of a central point where residents can come and look at all things and find out ways of recovering from other NGOs to activities such as VOAD, the volunteer organizations with active disasters. And they have a wide network of other things that we can bring in and help the residents recover. And being a part of that community helps us have an invested interest in their recovery. Next slide. Our initial focus while we're developing our team and training our volunteers and setting them up is going to be search and rescue, light search and rescue that is, fires, flooding, and my focus as the program director is to staff, train, and equip these volunteers while we're doing that. And then we're also looking at various avenues for financing our program. Right now, our principal financing will be coming from grants and other activities. Next slide. My current objectives is to get us established. We've been officially recognized by FEMA, as well as the state of New Mexico Homeland Security Department. And we're preparing, and I'm recruiting volunteers and teams now and starting training. We've identified a lot of our initial funding requirements and funding sources, so I'm not really here to ask for money. That may come in the future, but for right now, I don't need that. We're working on establishing our teams, and that's where I probably will ask you, and when I get to the end, I'll do that. And identifying and sourcing our equipment and resource needs. And as of today, my principal goal is to partner with the Village of Ruidoso. I have partnered with Capitan. I have a meeting tonight with Carrizosa, Corona later on this week, and the end of the month, Ruidoso Downs. And I'm partnering with industry. I've developed a partnership with Pattern Energy, and I hope to get other industries and other companies involved, such as Zia Gas, Otero Electric, P&M, the utilities, and have them a part of the program as well. Yeah, next slide. Our current structure is set up this way. Lincoln County Office of Emergency Services and Joe Kenmore is my sponsor. We want to partner initially with other government agencies such as Ruidoso. We want to partner with law enforcement, Ruidoso Police Department. We're partnering now with the Sheriff's Department and those organizations. And medical organizations, we've talked to the hospital and EMS, and we're working with them. We look to partner with home health service programs because that's a part of our community that we think needs to be addressed during times of disasters, is our citizens that are stuck at home because of health reasons or age. And again, we're looking at community volunteers as well as the VOAD group and other activities. Next slide. The organization is made up of program director, which I am that person. We have an executive council. We're going to develop advisory boards as needed on whatever activities we undertake so that we're always staying within our lanes and that we're not chasing rabbits down rabbit holes. We're going to have volunteers responses, teams, and I hope to gear teams up geographically to start with. As we grow, we may go to a functional structure, but for right now, because of the size of the county and the area we're trying to cover, we're going to go with geographical teams. Of course, we want to involve mental health and medical health, spiritual care, community service programs, and education institutions. We have had discussions with the university here in Ruidoso to work with them on the various things. Next slide. As you said, program director, I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations and the program development. We have an executive council that provides strategic direction and oversight. We have 6 volunteers at this time. Joe Kenmore, Joe Kabowski, your fire chief, is on the board. Kevin Kennedy, who's the Village of Capitan emergency manager and fire chief. Mike Wood is representing law enforcement with the sheriff's office. Todd Overview is medical with the hospital, of course, and then Sandra Nunley with EMS. Our state point of contact is Zach Wechter. He's helped us with a lot of free equipment to date and is helping us get our training program put together. Next slide. Our funding right now, as I said earlier, is principally going to be coming from grants. We're looking at various sources, including Homeland Security grants that we'll apply for later on this year, as well as community grants as well. In the future, we may ask for government input, such as the village and the county, depending on what our requirements are and what we can't cover with grants. We'll also look at partner contributions in various aspects, both financial or non-financial contributions. And eventually, we may become a 501c3. That's not on the front burner at this time because of the amount of work it takes and the limits of our personnel. Next slide. Training is going to be a big part of our program, training our staff and our personnel. We also are going to offer free training to the public. We have a basic course, basic CERT program that all volunteers will have to go through, but it teaches a little bit about fire safety. It teaches first aid. It teaches about the incident command system and those kinds of things. We're going to have CPR classes, and then we're going to have other classes that I'm going to get through the Red Cross, such as sheltering, feeding, all kinds of programs like that. And then we hope to get with citizens and help prepare them for disasters, such as financial planning, evacuation planning. We'll even do smoke alarms and partner with the Red Cross to do that and help people get their properties intact and in a position where they're better protected from fire and those things. We'll use our sources for these trainings are both internal to the program as well as from fire departments, FEMA, and the University of Utah has a tremendous hybrid program for certs. And that's going to be important. We're going to have trainers from all organizations, and a lot of the training we're going to do in-house and in community. Next slide. Finally, what I need today and what I need your help with is volunteers. I understand you have a radio station, a website. I would like to take an opportunity to utilize those resources to advertise the program, to let people know we're around, and to encourage people to become volunteers. I also would like you to encourage your employees to take part in our training as well. The training is free, but this training, I think, would be a useful resource or would bring skills that would be helpful to everybody in their everyday life and work. And then I would ask for a commitment to be a partner within and a partnership with the CERT program. Next slide. So that's basically it. So I stand for questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Coughlin, you got anything?
Well, I just want to say that ever since the Little Bear Fire, this was something that I had been talking about and thinking about it, how we needed a cert. And every time we have something happen, like recently we had the McBride fire, and we had our law enforcement out doing road barricades at all the entrances to getting up into the neighborhoods, and that was just tying up our resources where trained volunteers could be handling those types of things. So
Yeah, that's one of the activities that we could do.
So I commend you for getting this going, continue working with Chief Kazbowski and law enforcement and see where you can take it. I do think that personally, I think your 501c3 probably needs to come up a little bit on your list, because once you get your 501c3, then you can take direct donations, which are tax deductible, and it may open you up to a whole host of other grants that are available as well.
Yeah, right now, the only thing that's really holding me back on that is the number of hours a day I have.
Yes.
As
that's
the
where you-
program grows, we'll go.
That's where you could possibly find a volunteer who has experience in setting up 501c3s and get it going, because it's not that difficult.
Yeah. Thank you.
But they always take forever.
And the IRS does, especially if you have political, stuff behind your 501c3, but.
So how do people get a hold of you to volunteer?
I will leave a card. My phone number is 575-808-9814.
Okay,
And like I said, I'll leave some cards in that. And if they don't get a card, they can call Joe Kenmore, and Joe knows where I'm at every day. And
were you guys at the Copper Mountain Fire Station, what night was that? Friday? Monday? This last week, Thursday? Was it Thursday? Were you there?
No.
Okay, because I know we get together and we practice on these emergency responses a lot. I think you were there, Joe. So I understand all of these things, and so one thing we like to do is, we don't need meetings just to have a meeting, we want them to be
That's true.
productive and all that. So do you operate off of a MOU or some kind of an agreement with the entities? Like, what agreement do you have with the county?
Well, I have a verbal agreement with the county and a county commissioner vote
Okay,
through the minutes. I haven't developed an MOU, but I can develop an MOU. In fact, I probably need to. But right now, I've been working off commission votes and that. And then I've got individuals for most of the communities on the board, and that's a commitment, and we're working that way.
okay. Any of the other council? Zach, what do you think, your opinion on an MOU? That we should have one? Sure. Could you help him maybe work one out? Yeah. This is our village attorney over here, so he could help you with some language on it.
One thing I would like to see is each community in the county has a emergency response plan, and hazard mitigation plan. We would need to be rolled, or we should be rolled into that as far as part of the response.
Okay. Because we have other, what do we say? How do I word this? Citizen, that want to be involved in emergency stuff.
Right.
That we need to make sure everybody understands the rules
Yes.
of engagement, of fire and all that, we've had some
We have
issues.
very strict guidelines on what we can do, what we can operate into, and it'll be based, and we operate under the purview of Joe Kenmore, as well as, in a case, the incident commander. And liability requirements will drive us to the point that we are limited by what we're trained to do.
Right.
We're not going to step out of those bounds. We're not going to go cowboy on this situation,
Sure.
if you will.
Well, I can see, educating the public, just what we've tried to do with, go bags and for fire and different things like that. Mayor Pro Tem Salas is always reminding people, to keep a half tank of gas, during fire season so you can get out. Little things like that we do. Educating our tourists, coming up with a plan, that's something that we've identified. A lot of folks, especially coming up here with our short-term rentals, they don't pay attention to the evacuation route. So what do we do? How do we work with our short-term rentals? Providing some sort of, diagrams or something that they can put in the rooms. So those kind of things I can certainly see. Certainly CPR, it's evident. Half the town doesn't even know how to swim, much less do CPR. So, those are things that we could certainly do. So, okay, so we'll be in touch. I'll get you introduced to our public information officer.
Okay.
We have practices where we have emergency EOCs that we send up, operation centers and how those things work, communication, how we flow communication and aware and all those things. So we'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, the incident command system is an integral part of our training.
Absolutely. And it's obvious when people don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think, folks, that's what it takes is, people getting interested, seeing needs that the community needs and working on programs to fill them. So we appreciate that. Next time I see you, I'm not going to say we're going to buy your lunch, but at least I'll go over and shake your hand. I apologize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burns.
Okay, you bet. Appreciate it. Now then, we did not have any public input. Okay, no public input. So we'll move on to boards and commissions. And today I have before you for the Ruidoso Cultural and Natural History Committee. I don't see Tim Roberts. I saw him lurking around. There he is. This is something that we put together. Tim's driving this for the Wingfield House and all the things that we are putting together historically to tell everybody the story of Ruidoso, and within that story, Lincoln County, to let people know how Ruidoso became part of it, who were the people that started the community, what did they do for a living, all of those things, and also bringing into the geology of the area, the archaeology. There's so many stories that we have to find out who we are, how we got here. Everybody's talking about culture in New Mexico. And some of us that came from Texas, we wonder how we fit in. And then you look around and 9 out of 10 of us, well, maybe 7 out of 10 of us are from Texas. And so this is your culture too, on the people that moved to Ruidoso, where you came from, and then the future, because we have comprehensive plans here at the village. We're doing master plans for all kinds of different things throughout the community that you are and everybody's a part of, to tell us, that it's not just a dream, we have a vision and a plan to get there. And so we're really trying to bring this together in a comprehensive plan, but we appreciate Tim Roberts putting that together. He's going to have a historical tour and bring in the old mill in Lincoln County and Lincoln, city of Lincoln. Smokey Bear, we had somebody the other day that we're still calling it Smokey the Bear. And so, they didn't realize that was right here in Capitan. So all these things we're going to do. So these two people have a lot of history in Ruidoso. I'd like to put before you Lynn Kidder and Monty Lloyd Coe. I don't see Lynn. Is Monty here? No. So if I could get a motion for appointment.
I move that we accept Lynn Kidder and Monty, Lloyd Coe to the Ruidoso Cultural and Natural History Committee.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
And Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
All right, thank you, folks. And we're getting really excited about that. They finished the sheetrock in the building. They're going to be, as soon as weather permits, they're going to start on the exterior. We're really excited, and we have another item on here. Oh, we removed the item that we'll be looking at later, but the community's been very generous with donations and all those kind of things. Very good. Okay, we'll move on to the village manager report. Ron?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, the first item we have is going to be from regarding our special events that we're having here in the next few months. I'm going to have the team tourism come up. Members of our team tourism.
Yeah, she got back to work.
Thank you, buddy.
So tell everybody what the new equipment was that Parks and Rec got there, Matt.
So they're really cool
little tractor things. They're called Ventrax machines. They have tons of implements on them. Last night I was using a snow plow implement. We have a snow blower for them. We have a power broom, sidewinder mower, stump grinder. I mean, just about any implement you could think. They're kind of like a Bobcat with 1,000 implements on it, but it's got a heated cab on it and stuff, so it actually sweated me out. I had to pop the windows open last night. It got too hot in there, so.
So that's why you were using it last night, because it was heated.
It was heated, yes. We take care of our staff and buy good equipment.
Well, good. I'm glad that finally came in. I know you guys have been waiting on it.
Forever.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Council, before we get started with the special events, as the mayor and Ron said, we're going to skip and look at the collections policy next month once we get some clarification from the self-insurers firm. But I printed out I went this morning, met with White Sands Construction about some flooring issues that the mayor brought to my attention at the Wingfield House. We had a good conversation about that. But I took a bunch of pictures so you guys can kind of see what's going on. So I'll hand these out to you guys. So you have those.
You can stick it at the end and we'll pass that. The flooring issue is if you started and you didn't maintain your bounce, you might end up in Carrizozo.
No, it was, the back is pretty bad. They're going to float that with concrete, self-leveling
work, you
concrete.
think?
So, yeah, so I think they've got it under control.
Awesome.
So, all right. So in terms of our special event calendar for the summer so far, it is filling up fast. So we are, the next big event that we have going on actually is the kickoff for our Rio Doce Adventure Tour program, which is going into its third year. And that's going to be kicked off at the Outdoor Expo, which is going to be the weekend before St. Patrick's Day, which is the 10th and 11th of March at the Convention Center. And that's an exciting event, and this is the second year we're doing it, and it's only grown by leaps and bounds. So last year, we kind of threw it together. I hate to say at the last minute, but it was an idea that Rodney and Sydney had kind of at the last minute. We put together a really good event. We had a lot of folks come out, including Councilor Hooker with his amazing Jeep came out and showed that thing off for us. Well, we appreciate that. And this year, we're taking it even farther. We're getting quite a few new vendors and things of that nature. Maybe Matt can give some details about some of the folks that are coming.
Yeah, we're really excited. We've had a lot of people reach out to us and want to be part of it. They saw what happened last year. I know we have several camper manufacturers and companies, whether they're small-time manufacturers or large companies that have reached out that want to be part of it. Things like disc golf, local area disc golfers want to be part of it. We have road or off-highway trail or off-highway vehicle, OHVs.
OHVs.
We have a tour set up that they're actually going to be doing a tour along with it, so they can sign up there to go do a discounted tour with one of the OHV companies here in town. And so we have a lot of people that are really want to be part of this, so it's pretty exciting.
I got an awesome kayak last year.
That's what I heard, that you can paddle.
You did get a great kayak.
Yeah.
And we ended up buying a trailer too after seeing that thing, so.
No, it was a great event. You guys through, and we're excited about being a part of it again. So getting the convention center out there for folks. And then moving on, the next big event we have is our Cinco de Mayo event, which we're doing something a little bit different than we did last year. So last year we held a concert at the convention center. This year we're taking the party, so to speak, down to Midtown. So we're working with the Midtown Association, and it's going to be more of a daytime event. The goal here is to get people to Midtown and get them to take part in some shopping and some eating and things of that nature to give back, rather than getting them into one place at the convention center. Let's get them out into the community and increase some of the economic development opportunities there for our businesses. So we're doing a series of small concerts in the Country Club lot. And we have 3 bands that are going to be coming out for that, all New Mexico-based bands, one of which was at Aspen Fest and got rained out. So we're excited about getting them back. They're a band called Lone Pinon out of northern New Mexico, really great New Mexican music band. And all of the bands are also, they've agreed to not just play on the stage we have there in Country Club lot, but throughout the day they're going to be moving throughout Midtown. And then on top of that, so right now we're actually under budget quite a bit for that event. We've done a pretty good job of value engineering that. So we're looking at bringing maybe some additional acts, maybe some folklorico dancers, and maybe even some more mariachis to move throughout Midtown. Maybe even expanding it and going up to the upper circle, up in that area as well. So we're excited about this as a partnership with RMA and our businesses in Midtown. I think it's going to be a really good event. So
Tim, will that be on Friday or Saturday?
it's going to be on Saturday.
Okay.
So it's Cinco or Seis de Mayo. So yeah, we're making our own holiday here. So, but we thought it would be better to do it on Saturday. So, and we're excited about that. So, and then moving forward, the next event is on May 20th, which happens to be Armed Forces Day as well, is in coordination or better, what's the word I'm looking for? Support, there we go. And support, complementing the Aspen Cash Motorcycle Rally. We are throwing our Ride Ruidoso Spring Thunder concert in Wingfield Park. And it is a fundraiser just like it was last year in September. And we're pretty excited. Our headliner this year is Molly Hatchet, the pride of Jacksonville, Florida. So we're excited about that. We have some other bands as well. And we have some great community partners that we're raising money for, including the Community Foundation of Lincoln County, the Toys for Tots, Chief Chavez and the Police Department's Cops for Kids program, and the Baton Memorial Death March Foundation as well. We're doing our own motorcycle, all vehicle ride that day, and we're actually branding it or calling it the Armed Forces Day ride throughout Lincoln County, and that's going to be following the Ruidoso Adventure Tours, so we're promoting that as well. So it's going to start at about 3 o'clock on that Saturday, which is May 20th. And yesterday Friday we had a meeting with our committee, and we talked about a bunch of things. We're going to start off with a flag ceremony, posting of the colors at 3 o'clock in honor of Armed Forces Day, and then move forward with the festivities. So we're really excited about that, and I know Sydney and Matt have been working on a bunch of vendors and things to support that as well. So we're excited about that opportunity. So. And then the final kind of this fiscal year event is our annual, what now is being called Party in the Pines. So it's the Ruidoso event that Ruidoso Midtown Association has been putting on for quite a few years. But last year, we kind of helped them rebrand it. We elevated their event, worked with them to work on their event, and also incorporated some other events that go on Father's Day weekend, including the Ruidoso Tattoo Convention, which is just to say that thing has grown exponentially. They sold out of vendor spots like 2 months ago. James and Logan and their group that's an amazing thing they're doing. So a lot of people coming to town for that. So it's a whole weekend of festivities, but we're focusing a lot of our energy on supporting the Midtown Association down at Wingfield Park. We haven't officially locked in the entertainment for that yet, but we're well along with the general planning for it, and it's going to be a better event than it was last year. So we're pretty excited about that. So that's everything that's going on up until the end of the fiscal year. And then, of course, we have the drone show in July for July 4th, and then moving right into the September rally with our bigger Ride Ruidoso rally at that point, too. So with that, me and Matt will stand for questions.
What are your prizes for the adventure tour?
So we're trying to get them locked in, finish locking them in, but what we have projected is going to be a Ford Bronco Sport, a Slingshot Polaris Slingshot, Polaris Utility side-by-side.
Oh, you are having both those?
Yes, it's the goal to have both those, and then e-bike, be a Class 1 e-bike, which is what is allowed on all the trails, forest trails here and things like that. So.
Okay, good. Is it like a pedal assist?
Yeah, so it'll be pedal assist. It'll be motorized but pedal assist. All the forestry trails do not allow you to have a
motorized.
Like a throttled, and so you can't have an independent throttle. It can only be pedal assist, and so that's what the Class 1 classification is. So.
Okay.
We'll stick with that.
Anybody else have any questions? No. All right, we're looking forward to it.
Great events.
We'll be hiring for the Whibbit and the swimming pool here pretty quick.
Yes, sir. We need all the help we can get. We're projecting a little bit of a lull in applications this year. The Alto Country Club has just built a new swimming pool, and we can't compete with their pay. There's just no way, but so we will be competing with them some for staff. But we have some plans in place to try to recruit them from the high school. So
okay, awesome.
Mr. Roberts, you're on again.
All right. So Ron asked me to come up and give a little presentation regarding some information that the mayor sent us regarding bids for, it's a request for proposal for bids to host the New Mexico Municipal League Annual Conference. This is their main conference. We support a lot of the New Mexico Municipal League, smaller conferences, the Aviation Conference, Judges Conference, number of things. But this is the big one, and from what I can gather, it's never been in Ruidoso.
Nope.
Yes,
So-
it has been, it was in 1993.
Oh, man. See,
Yeah, we have-
that's what I get for putting my foot in my
I didn't know either.
There we
I'd
go.
asked and nobody knew.
All right, so I'm going to hand out real fast. This is the actual bid that you guys can look at.
It fills up how many hotel rooms?
They want a guarantee for 400, Mr. Mayor, 400 hotel rooms.
Meeting spaces, which we'll be talking to our good friends over at the college about.
Yes, so we have, I have been in contact with the Municipal League because I just wanted to call them from a logistic standpoint and say, look, as I was aware, you guys have never had it in Ruidoso, so you have all these other events here. Do you think Ruidoso is capable of holding this? And the answer was absolutely yes. They would love to come here.
Clovis can do it.
We can do it, no question. So they are very interested in coming to Ruidoso. It is a big commitment by the city, I will say that, which is why we wanted to bring this to your attention now, just in an informal kind of setting, and then actually discuss it at the next council meeting, because it does take an actual movement and signature by the council or the governing body to accept to put the bid in. As you can read, it is quite a lot of things that we have to assist with. One of them being, as the mayor mentioned, helping to secure 400 hotel rooms, which is quite a few. We also have to, waive all fees related to the convention center, assist in logistics, moving people around, transportation, help find a participating golf course that could do a Tuesday golf event, and it doesn't actually say how many folks usually go. I need to find that information out, but help waive the green fees for that. So it's a big commitment, but I think it's well worth it. And from what I can gather, it would be a really great event to bring to Ruidoso and showcase the village and what we have going on. So
400 rooms in August.
Well, and I will say that I
on the
should,
date.
yes. So the dates that they recommended are just impossible for Rudo. So it's the week before the futurity. Can't do it. So it's not going to happen. So I called and said, are you willing to be flexible? And they said, absolutely. So we would probably submit for actually the following week, which would be after Labor Day, which traditionally is we don't have anything going on in the convention center. We couldn't do this anyway because we have legacy events that go on every Labor Day at the convention center already. But the next weekend would be open and we could support it. And they were more than willing to be flexible, at least to entertain it. They'd have to take it to the board, of course, like with all the bids, but they are willing to.
What would help with the motel rooms too?
Oh, without question. Yes, sir.
Do you know approximately how many rooms we have in town?
We have a lot more than 400. So between the Elegante, I did a brief count, between the Elegante, the Ruidoso Inn, Elevate, and 2 or 3 others, we had at least 600.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, they're not going to give an entire block. The Elegante would probably only give us about 150 rooms because they have to keep some open. So, but we could definitely backfill that as well. So.
Well, that's where I brought up to you before, Tim, that Clovis, they did it the week before, so with them, I mean, you could use that. They set precedents there.
Sure.
In changing the dates that were, because, forever, it's always been on Labor Day weekend.
Mayor Pro Tem, yeah, that's absolutely right. And, they were more than willing to be flexible with us. I think they want to branch out and see some other municipalities and get their membership exposed to other municipalities, and what better place to come than Ruidoso. So.
And we've had a big advocate on the executive committee board that's really been pushing it.
You think so?
Good.
Yeah, it's good.
That's very good.
I've been advertising it for a year. So I'm saying. We may not get it, but it ain't gonna be for lack of trying, so.
Not for lack of trying.
So from a mayor, councilors, from a pure logistical standpoint, at least from a staff standpoint, I've talked to some other department heads and things. We can definitely support this. It's going to be work and it's going to be some effort up front, but we can definitely support it if that is the will of the governing body. So if it's something, between now and the next council meeting, I'm more than willing to sit down and talk about details or anything like that, logistics, and then bring that back to you guys for a decision. So,
Tim, are you, the question is, what year are you targeting? Because it seems that you're going to have commitments before you actually make the presentation.
Councilor Eby, council, yes. So we would, basically you put a bid in for all 3 years, and then you rank them which one you want. So that would 100% be up to the governing body which one we would want to go for. Right now, the convention center is open. That first weekend or second weekend in September for all the dates that are coming up, 24, 25, and 26.
When are you going to be president? What year?
24.
Well, I did sit on one of the meetings where we had a presentation by Farmington, Albuquerque, and Santa Fe that were bidding for the
24.
Conference. And after they made the presentations, then what we did is we selected if they did get that or not, but then we also gave them the year that they would be having the conference. So it wasn't necessarily, you didn't know it exactly which year you were going to get at that time, at least when we made that selections.
And Councilor, I think that's what they recommend, that you rank what years you want, but you're not guaranteed, which one you're going to get. So
I think might as well pour a hat in the ring.
Well, I see in here that they're going to meet in Albuquerque on June 2nd of this year to select the 3 sites. Will they at that time let you know if we're selected which year we have?
Councilor Coughlin, I'm not entirely sure if they'll tell us right then and there. I imagine, because we will have to be there if our bid's, accepted, we will have to be there to present, I imagine. So I imagine they would tell us right there and then, so.
Okay, because that gives a little over a year to the first date to plan for it. So it's not too bad.
And you'll be gone anyway.
I'll be gone. Who knows if you'll still be on
That's true.
municipal league. They may get tired of you.
Yeah, Mayor Crawford, we could have him fly in to help us out, but, we have our partner here with ENMU and on logistics and trying to work with others to make this happen, and we'll, if the governing body wishes, we'll proceed with the application.
I think we should.
I think we should. Absolutely.
Mayor,
They love
council.
coming to Ruidoso for conventions anyway, so.
Yes, they do.
Might as
So
well please them.
we'll put a formal proposal together, a packet together, and bring it back to you at the next council meeting to officially vote on, and then get it sent off. So,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, our next item here is update on the 2023 street department projects. Adam and Josh, these guys are asleep back there, but we'll make sure and throw them some water or something to wake them up.
Well, Adam shouldn't be tired. He just got back from vacation.
Well, yeah, I know. We all saw his Facebook posts.
Yeah.
Yeah. From Truth or Consequences.
Trying to catch up.
Yeah. So again, good job on the streets the last couple of times, and I know you guys are prepared. We got another one coming in.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Mayor, council, for the 2023, all we have going for our major projects is the Resort Drive, D Street and Upper Sutter's project. That project is, I'd say, roughly 30% complete. We have the upper part of Sutter's that Cutler came in, milled and paved.
By the Upper Canyon Circle.
Yes, sir. And we had started actually last week and got a couple days in and started cleaning the bar ditches on Resort Drive and going up that. And then, we got our wonderful snow.
Okay. And then you have coming in spring.
And then, yes, sir. Coming this spring is our, sorry, I'm tired. Our MAP project, our co-op project. Yes, sir. Coming up, that's going to be, we'll put in for that. And well, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Get
the
this
one
boy
that
a
we
nap
do
or
have
a big bull or Red Bull or something.
Right, is the Carter's Park, Wingfield.
Yes.
And all of that coming up, which we do have the money, for, that should be getting the money in, or have the money for. I'm out of it right now. But for that, and that's due by the end of the year, that's the fiscal year, or not our fiscal year, but the calendar year. So as soon as we get done with our map project, we'll move straight into that project.
Okay. Okay. And then, Adam?
And so, you know, with the big projects that the street department has going on, we still have our day-to-day operations. So what Josh and I have kind of sat down and talked about is kind of planning out how we're gonna, fix our street cuts and, do the rest of the drainage around town and stuff like that. So I guess the biggest thing we've come up with is Josh and his crew are gonna do their paving, their street cuts, potholes, Mondays and Tuesdays and work orders. And Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they will work on their project part of it. Now, if they don't need their whole crew, then we'll break people off to do potholes and street cuts as we can.
Okay. And so you're still doing the pothole project? People calling in, like I know I got some calls yesterday, and this time of the year, there's nothing that you can do, we understand. Upper Brady Canyon, and then you'll be going into doing Hull Road.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll do Service Road.
Service Road, Hull, Service, and what was the other one, Ron?
Reese Drive.
Yes.
Okay.
And that hot box trailer that we got a year ago, whatever, that thing is, with
Yeah.
weather like this, it's awesome for filling those.
Oh, you
potholes.
can actually do work like this?
It makes it a little hard, but when it's cold outside, that cold mix and hot mix, it either cools down or it's real hard, and that hot box is amazing. It loosens that stuff up and actually gets you to get packed down in there.
Okay, good.
In Mayor Crawford, members of the council also have them update on Meacham Drive on the manhole.
Yes.
You've been getting a lot of calls on that. I did speak to Francisco. He's the Department of Transportation, the district engineer, and I'll let Adam explain what we're doing on there.
So, Mayor, Council, after they did the Cutler project on Meacham, we had the potholes and, people are complaining about them.
The manholes.
The manholes, yes.
Yes.
Sorry. So.
Y'all both need a nap.
We do. So the first thing we're gonna do, in the meantime, is we got some quotes and Josh got the PO in for the rubber mats that we had talked about at the last council meeting, just to.
Cut the round and put them in?
And I'm actually working with Renegade Construction on a quote for them to come raise those, and we're just gonna put the adjustable rings in there. So basically, we won't have to cut anything out. We'll take the lid off, you stick the ring in, tighten up the bolt, it expands out, and then Josh will come behind and
Raise them and then put them in. Is that something we pay for? We have to pay for that?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, yes. In speaking with Francisco, they would help us with traffic control and do some of the other, but if we need some mix from them, they would provide it, but we will contract with the Renegade, the village will.
And like I said, with that, it'll make it a lot easier because it's not a whole lot of hot mix that we're needing to fill it around. So like I said, again, with that hot box trailer, we keep it hot in the meantime we can go behind them and actually pave around it as they work on them.
Okay. All right, because we've gotten a lot of complaints on Meacham with the manhole covers, people hitting them or whatever. So temporarily, and I think Fred came up with the mats.
Yep.
And so are these just like livestock mats and stuff?
Livestock mats.
Yeah, cutting a circle and setting them in there so we don't have that big ta-dunt. And then we'll come in, put the ring, raise them, and you're gonna square it up?
No, it'll be, like I said, we won't cut anything out unless we have to open up just a little bit. But the
Okay.
rings are actually round, so we'll just stick them straight in there and then put the asphalt around it.
Oh, okay.
Be done.
All right, sounds good.
Josh, got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So, on Paradise Canyon, we went through and we laid down brand-new asphalt, nice and smooth.
Yes, sir.
You did a project here a week ago over on Country Club where it's not smooth. I don't know what that process is called. Or
Right now, we're just, with the weather being like it is and being cold, we're just trying to, because we were mixing them potholes and putting mix in the potholes and putting mix in the potholes, and it just kept popping out.
Yeah.
So what we did is we just blade patched it for right now.
Okay.
We'll come back later and actually smooth everything out. We're just trying to get rid of the man-eating potholes right now.
So that's just a temporary fix so that we're not losing vehicles in the potholes.
Right.
Man-eating.
Man-eating, yes.
Man-eating.
Man-eating
We
potholes.
lost a guy in it the other day when we were doing it.
And we can't afford you can't afford to lose the guy.
No.
You're shorthanded already. Okay, any other smart aleck comments or questions?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, you know, that on that area there, it was so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Getting so bad, and even now that they just bladed there, I'm sure that area is gonna be, you know, again, it's gonna have some potholes there, but we want to continue to whatever we can do to repair those temporarily until the weather is.
permits.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea to do that. It's a temporary thing, but at least it gets it taken care of, because sometimes I know certain roads where the potholes are, you gotta swerve, and sometimes I forget to swerve, and I go, and I get yelled at if my wife's in the car.
Right, and like I said, the whole thing with that too, you know, is it's just temporary. We'll go back, and smooth everything up. Once the weather permits, it warms up to where we can actually spray our oil and get everything to stick and get it right, get it all squared up and get everything.
Great.
And then hopefully that'll be coming through on our next project, so.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay, y'all need to go get a nap,
They have a
especially you, young man.
They have a couple regular items coming up too. So.
Josh, you got to go to Albuquerque? Oh, for the class?
Yes, sir.
You taking the Village Plane?
I
I always hear that we got a jet somewhere, and I'm just looking for it. Somebody driving you?
I'll probably be driving, and one of the other guys that been working all day and night is going up there with me as well.
Oh, man. There's no way to postpone that?
No,
Mayor Crawford, it's a smoke school, and you register like 4 months in advance, and it's like every 6 months, so Adam's gonna have to, he'll be the one working all night tonight, so.
All
Again,
right.
Could we move around agenda items to get him out of here so he can go get?
Yeah, he's gone now, isn't he?
we have regular items on here for Josh and Adam also.
Okay. Yeah, we'll move around. We'll get you guys up next. We just have the 1114 Meacham Drive.
I think Adam's gonna stay for this one also.
And then we'll go directly to you guys. Hello, Chris.
Hello. I have my security blanket here. Leonard
You
was
don't need
supposed to
that.
give this presentation, but he's in training this week. He signed up for it months ago, and he's had to cancel it a couple of times, so I told him we'd cover it.
Okay.
Ron asked us to give a quick update on the Meacham Meadows housing project.
For those of you who don't know, that's the one that we've put the 17 mobile homes in down here by Dollar General.
Yes, as of today, 16 of the 17 have been delivered. They were supposed to deliver the last one this week, weather permitting, but obviously it may be postponed. So they're pretty close to getting that completed. All the necessary utilities have been installed, the water, electricity, and sewage. Foundation and groundwork has been completed. And as I was saying, the last home should be installed hopefully this week. Once the homes are all installed, they're going to start installing the decks and the awnings, and so far that work has started.
That has started.
Yeah, it started on the week of February 6th.
Okay.
So they're working on getting that completed as well. Because we're dealing with the winter months, P&M has started energizing all the homes. All the Karsten homes have been energized, and they're working on the AAA homes now. So
The
that
water's
way-
turned on? Just electrical?
Just electrical, yes. So they're just trying to make sure that everything's warm so they can continue the work on the inside, the interior work that's been identified in the walkthroughs that we've been conducting. And just a side note on that, the mayor requested that Capital Projects participate in the inspections of the homes as they've been delivered to make sure that there's not any outstanding issues. And before the mayor pays any of the pay applications, we make sure that it's signed off and been inspected and all the work has been completed before we move forward.
Cracks and
Yeah.
anything on the skirting or whatever, these guys are doing a good job.
Are they all skirted yet?
Most of them,
Most of them are.
yeah.
I think they're still working on a couple, but they're working quickly. The project experienced a total of 73 rain and snow days, and that is including the days the site was muddy after the events. So there's been some delays, but they're working through them. We're hoping that as it gets closer. Leonard said that he couldn't be real specific on when this would be completed because here we are with more snow days, but they're working really hard to get that done.
Yeah, and we said February.
Hopefully.
We can say what year.
Well, we also talked about November, December, January.
No, it's
August.
August.
Yeah, it was gonna be August.
Yeah.
It's gonna take 2 months to get them in, something like that.
The walking trail, they said that they're not gonna start, working on the walking trail or completing the walking trail until we reach a better weather window.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna move forward with finalizing the work on that. And, the light pole bases and mailbox pads have been completed, so they get ready to install those. And, we verified that we have a location identified for the trash dumpsters. So that's taken care of. And then, did we finalize a plan for what we were gonna do with, whether we were gonna, install any base cores or what we're gonna do with that?
We're gonna put the millings, as we talked about.
The millings?
Millings,
Yeah.
and then roll them, and then as soon as that last house is set, there's one more hydrant that needs to go in. It's already stubbed out to it, but they had to leave it out until they got the home set, and then one of the poles. So as soon as that last house set, they'll set the hydrant, one of the light poles, and they will charge the water line and do their pressure test and back tees on it.
Okay. Okay, anything else? All right, so, well, we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, since we're talking about these, I talked to our property manager the other day, and she was indicating there's over 70 applications that she's received so far, and we've got 17 homes. But we had that one extra home that we can't put there. We were talking about using that for a different purpose. What she was saying is a lot of the requests for housing are from families and need 3 bedrooms, and we only have like 7 3-bedroom homes. So instead of putting that 3-bedroom over there for the shop, because I don't know if we need a 3-bedroom, if we can get that placed somewhere quickly, that would definitely help with, we were talking about doing something different over there on Sunny
And the
Slope.
one that we're looking at on Sunny Slope, we could possibly put a duplex with 6, there'd be 3-bedroom and 3-bedroom.
Right, so if there's something, or maybe we put that there and put that project, move it back over here on the Beecham, where we've got by the Rock House.
And we've got a site plan that's, I guess, is finished that we're getting ready to review, additional 12.
Yes, and Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, we're working with White Sands on that, the engineers. So once we want to put the 3 and 4 bedroom, I believe they are, the other type of home, and they're really nice. So that'd be a great area to put
They're
them
the
in.
ones that are fireproof, fire
And where
resistant.
would that be?
On Sunny Slope,
Sunny Slope.
instead of the
okay.
3-bedroom trailer house.
Okay.
We can certainly look at that. How far along are we on 603? On the infrastructure, the water?
The water is in.
You've already milled the streets, the roads.
Yes, sir. The only thing that I guess in the design is the sewer line, because there's a 4-inch sewer line there. And I've been working with the engineer for they want to upsize it and for the tie-in. But I mean, the electric's there, the water's there, there is sewer there if we need it.
Okay.
I just don't know if we need a 3-bedroom for that other purpose, for the.
Yeah, for the staff.
For the staffing, and then it's only used for a few times during the year. Put that into our housing, because there's definitely a big need for families to have housing.
No, I agree. I mean, we knew we were going to have, when the studies show us that we're, this was 6 years ago, that we were over 400 family units short, you're going to have a lot of, and then the McBride people have,
Yeah.
they're moved up on the list, so we get that.
Well, she kind of guesstimated, I go, 70 people? Well, that's what she's taken in total, but by the time she actually goes to start calling them when we're ready to start renting these out, that may dwindle down to 30 or 40, but still, we only have 17.
I know several that applied that have places, they just want a new one.
Right.
So they'll have to work through that, so.
Yeah.
But we appreciate it. All right, thank you. And there you go, Mr. Russ. He's on the Housing Committee, and were you playing Smoocheroo back there, or were you whispering in her ear?
No, it's Valentine's.
No, it is, that's what I was saying, all shucks. Yeah, James serves on our Housing Committee, and this is our first development that we're doing, and then we've got several others. We put in for 9% tax credit, but even if we get that deal, it's going to be a 2-year build on those apartments. So you're right. If we have several pieces of property we need to look at, Samantha, and see if there's something available out there. Okay, thank you guys, everyone.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I'll stand for any questions on the manager's report. There's a lot of information. I have to thank Yvonne for every month she's preparing and putting all the information together, and she'll be training somebody starting Thursday. So, but I want to thank Yvonne again for that.
Ron, can I ask a question on the new court building that they're putting in? So I know when Eric was here, he had a drainage plan along Reese with detention ponds, I believe, not retention, detention ponds. And the culvert right now is kind of filled in from all the construction. So will we wait until they're done with building everything and the parking lot in before we go in and start doing that part of the project?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Coughlin, we did have a meeting with White Sands Construction regarding behind the Horton and some of the drainage. At the time, he had a Riverbend Engineering. They're doing the work, so we just need to get with Chris Phillips and see when wants to begin on that, because they're going to have to redo that whole area there in front of the Horton also, so that's something we need to look into.
Right, I just don't, I saw that there were crews out there working on Service Road, clearing out the culverts, it looked like. But on the Reese side, it's now, there's no real culvert and a lot of it's really flat. So when we get to the springtime and start getting the rains, then it can create a problem if we don't have something to handle the.
And I did speak to Clark, the superintendent. He called me yesterday, and he was telling me that they were doing some work there by the roadways and also.
Right.
And I think Roper Construction was going to begin doing some site work.
Okay.
But I'll get that information. I'll give it out to the entire council.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of Ron? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to regular items so we can get the guys back on the road and moving on. So we'll move on to item number 4, if we could have Adam and Josh up. Is that what we're talking about, the
Yeah.
funding?
Co-ops, yeah.
4 and 5.
So this is discussion and possible action on Resolution 2023-04, resolution of support and commitment to the funding of the 2023-2024 New Mexico Department of Transportation Co-op Funding Program in the amount of $304,848.
Yes, sir, Mayor, Council. This is our Innsbrook project that we had brought up to you. The proposed mill and pave for Innsbrook and Innsbrook Road and Metz. And
What about plumbing over there?
Mayor, I actually spoke with Ron a little bit yesterday about it, and depending on if we get the funding for this project, we'll kind of coordinate it. I don't think in the timeline that we have, we're gonna be able to get the plumbing moved out of those, out of the driveways and stuff like that, so I think that's gonna be a kind of a later thing down the road. But, the people in Innsbrook, they've been complaining to us, and we're trying to, please them on the road.
I hate to pave it and then cut it up.
That's kind of where I'm at also, but, we talked to, the manager that, takes care of that and, give her some options. One of the things we've been doing is, where the potholes are in the intersections, Josh's guys have been going out and cutting the squares out and making it look nice, but, you know, we told them that we'd put in for this project, and then we started thinking about the utilities, so that's something we're gonna have to look at.
Okay. Okay. Any questions on this? Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to, take my glasses off, that we approve Resolution 2023-04, a resolution of support and commitment to the funding of the 2023-2024 NMDOT Co-op Funding Program in the amount of $304,848.00.
Second.
Any final discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on Resolution 2023-05, a resolution in support and commitment to the funding of the 2023-2024 New Mexico Department of Transportation NMDOT MAP funding program in the amount of $285,300.
Yes, sir. Mayor, council, on this is Country Club Drive, which we were just talking about, that I'm putting in for this year. Has to be turned in. Both of these have to be turned in by March 15th. So that we can put in for this. This is going to be, you know, what we were talking about. We're going to cut out some of the bad spots, fill them back in, and then come back, and this will be an overlay of Country Club Drive.
Okay. Any questions?
I move that we accept Resolution 2023-05, a resolution in support and commitment to the funding of the 2023-2024 New Mexico Department of Transportation MAP funding program in the amount of $285,300.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
And Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking at the map and where it gets down, getting down back towards Sutter, you got that zigzag stuff, that's gonna be fun. Yeah.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Drive safe.
Yeah, be careful.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, we'll go back up to reports from municipal officials. Dr. Jackson, do you have anything?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I was impressed with the manager's report on the capital outlay priorities that we've set out, just for those in Zoom land, as workforce housing, broadband fiber connectivity, bridge replacements and construction, as well as sewer infrastructure. And all of these total just under about $5 million. So they're very large projects that require a lot of attention. Also, I was impressed with the quality of life grants that we got and received. One especially for the Grindstone Discourse. Each of these were short of 70, or one was around 63K, the other 72K. And also, as reported earlier today, the work and road improvement that many people are inquiring about, but they do every time at this time of the year.
Yeah.
And we've had more than our share of moisture, so it's to be understood, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Counselor Eby.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm just sitting here kind of reflecting, like on all the presentations that were given here by the different people today, and just kind of thinking back when, in 1960, what there was to do in Ruidoso. And there, you come up here to go to the Indian Reservation, go to Bonita Lake, maybe go to the amusement park where the sanctuary on the river used to be, and that was about it. Go fishing. But now there's so much going on, especially with listening to the presentation by the Parks and Rec and Tourism of how these events have actually just exploded and just really grown in the popularity and just the work that the staff has to put together and actually do to bring these things to fruition. And also trying to get the Municipal League Conference here. That's a big one. You know, you all know that we did have the Republican Party conference here. That was over 1,000 people who came in for that. And adventure. It was a little tight for that many people, but it went very smoothly. So this town is really definitely changing. Looking at the short-term rentals in manager report, 1,304.
Yeah.
It's gone up from 1,269 last month or in November. So I was just thinking that there's really only, 6,000 private water meters or something like that in town? So that's like over 1/6 of the residential homes that are short-term rentals, if it works out that way. So just hats off to the staff and the village employees for their hard work and everything. And it really does me good to see that the advancements that are opened up in the departments come from within, that we do have the people that have the energy, also have the desire to work hard, and also desire to be advanced, and they love their job. So I'm glad that we can recruit from within as far as advancements and bringing them up. I know that it leaves holes, but I guess that those holes that they leave would be a little easier to fill than the top positions. So that just lends itself to the commitment that the workers have, and also the environment that the village and the department heads have created for all of the workers. So I just love living here in Ruidoso, and just keep chugging along. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman, you ready?
I'm ready. To go along with the Year of the Environmental Stewardship,
Yes.
I attended a Keep Ruidoso Beautiful committee meeting yesterday, and so we're going to have our cleanup in April, and we'll talk about this again in March and April. But we're looking to, it's probably going to be a bigger go back before the pandemic. So, Joe, you might like to come and cook for us.
Sure, I'll
because
flip burgers.
Because we're going to have some food this time. Also, coming up is our recycled art show. And T-Bone goes out to the schools and his committee, and the kids are, and actually anybody in town can take recycled products and make whatever they want to. And then we're going to display them in the library, and they'll be, be judged.
Okay.
First, second, and third.
Trash to treasure.
Yes. And that is going to be April 17th at the library. So I'll remind you so that maybe you could go over and look at them.
Absolutely.
So, Keep Ruidoso Beautiful, it just gets better and better. We started Keep Ruidoso Beautiful in the mid-90s, and every year it just gets better, so
Okay. Is that it? Thank you.
that's it.
Mayor Pro Tem Salas?
Thank you, Mayor. And on part of that, of beautification, it's always a constant thing for us. And I always commended T-Bone for applying for those Keep Ruidoso Beautiful grants and getting a lot of money there. But I was a baby boomer, and I was raised on the principle of pave over paradise and put up a parking lot. So I was glad to see a parking lot request for grant funds to go at the new disc golf course over there. So hopefully we'll get that through the outdoor recreation fund. But with that said, there's a lot of work that we've accomplished, and there's a lot more that's still to come, and I see on a good path moving forward for all. One thing about the Cinco de Mayo event, I would propose to change it to Guacamole Day and have that, because after seeing that avocado ad at the Super Bowl game, it's like, man, I'm hooked on guacamole now. So, but congratulations to all the departments, and I say every department has been a rough year in a lot of aspects of, you know, rain, weather, you know, beyond our control, of delay of equipment. That's one thing that's always on our, you know, plate that I mean, I don't even know if we got our backhoes yet, you know, so, I mean, that's the thing, but yet we're still maintaining to do what we have to get done. And then also the housing. I'm really glad on that because as we talk and we see on our reports how many positions we have to fill, and I think out of the interviews, it's like we can't find housing. And I think once we get in the role of that, that will move forward. So that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilor Hooker.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would just mirror all the praises that have been given and say one of the things I've enjoyed is the past 4 Thursdays getting to ski through the ski school program. Sitting on the gondolas and being anonymous, it's kind of neat to listen to people. The majority is still very positive towards the village and what goes on in here, so, you know, I think that's a good thing. But again, just glad to be here and glad to do my part. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, never least, I can just get everybody a fair opportunity.
Yeah. I
Councilor
noticed that.
Coughlin?
Yeah, how it went boom, boom. Okay, I get it. So a couple of weeks ago, I got to join the circus when we went up to Santa Fe.
Yep.
For a few days and talk with some of our elected officials. And there's a lot of money floating around, and hopefully the money is done is being used in a good way that will help us all and come back into our town and help us out with some projects. One thing that has happened that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks is restaurants. It's so frustrating to go out for dinner and, oh, no, we close on Sunday at 5 o'clock, or we're not open or whatever. And we've gotten, now these restaurants are getting, we talk about staffing, they're getting their staffing and they're being able to open up and we've got Cattle Baron reopened. So that helps to give us more opportunities and more choices when it comes time to finding a place to eat around this town and not having to leave town to go somewhere. But it's the staffing that just holds us back, and it affects not only the village. We've got a whole bunch of positions here that are open, but it affects almost every business that I know about. Every employer is struggling to get those people in. I just don't know where they all went because we still have people that are here. So hopefully we can get that resolved. Just think how well we're doing. We talked about that, how well the village is doing despite all the challenges that came through the pandemic, and where a lot of communities, their GRT went in the toilet and ours is just going really great. But just think how much further ahead we would be if we were able to run on all cylinders. So hopefully that problem is taken care of. And yes, the housing issue is the biggest problem. I'm proud, and I hear from some people that I know in Roswell and the council over there, and they're just jealous that we're able to make some strides that we're making with housing. So it's good. It's good. So life is good in Ruidoso, and that's it.
All right.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, one thing, with your permission, I forgot to do a shout out to the Hondo Valley Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring the Lincoln County Days reception for the legislators and for those that were in attendance. They did a very nice job, as did you, Mr. Mayor.
They did. They always do. And I appreciate the folks that were able to go up. And then a bunch of us will be leaving Wednesday for Municipal Day, or Municipal Week, I would think is what it is, training and whatnot. So I appreciate it. Thank you for bringing that up. Now we'll move on to public hearings. We have one item, public hearing for vacation of a portion of public right-of-way, 236 Paradise Canyon Road, Lot 48 of Block 4 of the Paradise Canyon Subdivision, Second Supplement, Ruidoso, New Mexico, 88345, case PVC 2022-484. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This application went before the Planning Commission in December. They recommended to you all that the vacation take place of this 788.47 square feet of land that they are requesting. As you'll see within my case study, I have recommended denial, contrary to how they voted, because of the utilities that it'd be infringing upon, as well as our emergency responders, as they try to, as they need to pass vehicles on the shoulder. And so that north side of Paradise Canyon would be impacted negatively by the vacation. This property, we researched from 1979 to now for building permits to see if this stairway, as well as the living room, was permitted and allowed to encroach in, and we were unable to find anything except for a roof permit that was issued in 2013. Those are the facts of our case. We presented this to Development Review, which is comprised of all of our directors that are impacted by development. We have one negative statement from our streets manager and also our chief of police, which are inside your packet. And here with us today representing the application is Wyatt Sparks, the surveyor, as well as James Russ, their realtor.
Okay. All right, so what we do is we have an open meeting, so I'm going to read a script off that we go into a quasi judicial. So, we'll have to ask some questions of the governing body if they've been approached or they've actually know anything about this, basically, because we're in a position to listen to the evidence that's presented and then rule on it at the end of it. So we're going to open the public hearing. The public hearing today will be conducted under the procedures mandated by the New Mexico Court of Appeals in Battershell versus the City of Albuquerque, which is intended to protect the due process rights of all parties. Under this ruling, the following procedures will apply. Parties to the hearing will be identified as well as witnesses to the parties that may wish to give testimony. All persons offering testimony will be sworn in by me, the mayor, village clerk, or other designee who is authorized to administer oaths. C, all persons offering testimony will be limited to the relevant matter being heard. The issue is to be decided at the public hearing. The issue to be decided at this public hearing is a request for vacation of a portion of a public right-of-way, 236 Paradise Canyon Road, Lot 48 of Block 4 of Paradise Canyon Subdivision, second supplement, Ruidoso, New Mexico, submitted by Paula Dalton and Eileen Crawford. The mayor will limit testimony to this issue. For the purpose of this public hearing, interested parties are identified as Samantha Cerna, Planning and Zoning Staff, Wyatt Sparks on behalf of Paula Dalton, and I may designate other persons and parties if they wish to show to the satisfaction of the governing body that they have immediate, pecuniary, or direct interest in the outcome of the public hearing. Witnesses are those persons designated by parties to present testimony on their behalf. And if there's other persons present that wish to be considered as a party. So that would be like James, if you guys want to testify. So we'll recognize James Russ. And so we'll need to swear him in. We'll swear everybody in at once. Is that all right, Jenny?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would be a party to this that might want to testify besides Mr. Sparks, Russ, and Samantha? And Adams raised his hand. Were you raising your hand, Cheryl? Oh, I thought you were just waving then.
You were just bidding.
No, bidding. So Adam, okay. What? Is that it? Oh, there's somebody on, is there anybody else on there? Paula Dalton?
Yes.
Okay, is there anyone else on Zoom?
No, sir.
That's it? Okay.
Sir.
And now at this time, I'd like to ask the members of the governing body, does anyone have a conflict?
No.
No.
Joe says no. Has there been any outside or ex parte communications by or by any of the members of the governing body? Any discussions? Nope.
No.
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 Okay, now at this time, we'll swear in all the parties, so anybody that would like to stand, and if you want to testify for or against this, please stand, and then we'll swear everybody in. And do you have the,
I can do it, sir, if you would.
go right ahead.
So let me make, just to clarify, we have Samantha Cerna, James, Russ, Paula, Dalton, Wyatt Sparks, and Adam Sanchez,
Okay,
correct? Okay. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Thank you.
okay, everybody voted in the affirmative. Okay, at this time, we have the staff's presentation. Was that your presentation? Okay, does any of the governing body have any questions for staff?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay, applicant, would you like to cross-examine staff? Do you have any questions? No? Okay. Other parties may cross-examine the staff. Is there anyone else that would like to ask questions of staff? Okay. Now then, we'll have the applicant's presentation. So, Mr. Sparks, if you'd like to come down, if you're presenting on behalf, are you presenting too, Mr. Russ? Okay. I'm really kind of surprised you're in town. I mean, it's every time I see him, he's off somewhere. Mm.
Santa Fe tomorrow.
Santa Fe tomorrow. All right. And so at this time, Mr. Sparks, if you would like to go ahead and give the presentation on behalf of your applicant, Ms. Dalton.
Sure. James had this property for sale and it sold, pending sale back in June of '22. Subsequently, they ordered a survey on the property before the closing. At that time, it became apparent that there was an encroachment onto Paradise Canyon. Paradise Canyon Road has got 100-foot right-of-way. And so it's kind of deceiving there when you see the pavement going down through there exactly where the right-of-way is. And there's lots of properties and lots of things along there that have been encroaching into the right-of-way because it's so wide. And this became apparent. The house has been there for many, many years. It's been encroaching. It wasn't something that was done recently. And so consequently, after the survey was done, the sale fell through. The property went back on the market for sale again. And later in the year, they had another buyer come up wanting to buy the property. But the problem still existed of the encroachment, and that becomes a problem with the title companies not wanting to insure title. It becomes a problem with liability being out in the right of way. So anyway, the only cure that we could see at this time, was to go ahead and try to get some property around the structure that's encroaching, and get that property from the city to clear up the encroachment problem. I know the staff had several recommendations, or people worried about the expansion of Paradise Canyon Road causing a problem. And so anyway, we've minimized the amount that's been taken. The structure itself is 50-something foot from the paved road surface there. In the expansion of the road, if you go a little ways on up Paradise Canyon, you got a sheer rock bluff there that's coming in against the right-of-way, and so expansion of the road on what would basically be the north side is very impractical. When you go to the south, you get down there and you have existing houses that are 20-something feet from the pavement, and so they're encroaching onto the right-of-way, and it would impede any expansion of the right-of-way onto that side of the road. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the property, but the hill is very steep there. So you'd have a massive amount of dirt to move to try to expand the road in that direction. And there's a drive that goes up there They've actually been using some other parts of the right-of-way to park on and stuff because of the limited space they have up there. So anyway, the property has since come up for sale again, and with an agreement that they'll try to clear the encroachment problems up. And so that's what we're here trying to do. In looking at the development of the road, like I say, the road itself is not centered very well in the 100-foot right-of-way. And any expansion, you have the creek running on one side and the hill on the other side. You don't have really much place that you can expand the road in either direction and without a whole lot of trouble. So anyway, that's why we're requesting this. There's a well that's actually in the right-of-way. Some of those problems aren't being addressed as far as what we're asking for. We're really just trying to minimize the amount of right-of-way taken to clear the encroachment problems. That's basically what we're trying to do.
Okay. Anything from you?
Just to add, from my discovery from county records, it looks like the home was built in 1960. And also exactly the contour of the land there, I feel it's impossible to build on that side without a bunch of dynamite and moving some of those other homes. It would be pretty tough to try to improve that side of the road.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Staff, would you like to cross-examine, ask any questions? Okay. Are there any other parties that would like to ask a question? No? Okay. Now we're going to close the public hearing for public input. Now we'll have discussion between the members of the body here. Okay? And you can still ask questions. So we'll close the public portion. Does the council have any questions of staff? Anything that they need cleared up?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So why would this cause, if we did this, why would it cause emergency vehicles a problem? And Adam, what about why would you not want this?
I have two statements that were provided by the street manager and the chief of police, and I can read those. They are in the packet, but I can pass it to them for.
See that?
I don't see it. We don't have it.
I went over it
Online.
though,
It's in there.
but I forgot.
When you click on the signed case study,
Oh, that's where it's
it
at.
has the letters issued by both Josh and Chief Chavez.
Okay. Go ahead, Adam. Can you answer the question of why you would be in negative
Yes.
position on this?
Mayor, Council, I'm actually speaking on behalf of Josh Long in his letter. I think, speaking with Josh is actually going along with the ordinance of the Village of Ruidoso as far as right-of-way. I understand there's a 100-foot right-of-way, but in our ordinance, it does state that a major thoroughfare is 48 to 56 feet wide. So the existing road there is right at 26 feet wide. So any expansion of that road, and I understand what White's saying, you know, there is a bluff up above, but, you know, in other traffic studies, you know, Upper Canyon being one, you know, there is emergency passing lanes for emergency vehicles or pull-offs. So I think that's where Josh is going with this. He's just going along with the village ordinance.
Okay. I think we're just all reperusing the letters.
Yeah.
So basically what it looks like, Samantha, is if this isn't cleared up, I mean, how could they ever sell it or buy it or whatever?
I'm worried about.
I mean, what are our options here? One is to say the canyon's already all screwed up, so one more's not gonna matter. That's what I'm hearing, which sets most of Ruidoso streets. We're looking at solid waste improvement on what we could do to improve on the narrow gauge of that road through there, because we have those dumpsters hit every year because it's so tight in some places. So I'm just looking for an alternative for these folks and something for us too, for the citizens. Do you have any input on that?
When addressing this specific case, I think this is the only alternative to get title insurance on this property. And so we have been approached by them to do an easement for them to encroach, which would cause liability on the village, and I don't recommend that solution. So if we're just looking at this specific case, vacation of the 15 feet into the right-of-way would be the best option. Throughout Paradise and our community as well, we see encroachments into the right-of-way that have not been cleared up. I would not recommend having them vacate all the way to the end of the stairway that they're encroaching. They're actually encroaching further than the 15 feet. If at any time we did need to expand utilities in the right-of-way or the road, that would lessen our ability to do so. So I would stick with the drawing that Wyatt has prepared, where it's only the 15 feet into the right-of-way. With that, you all may be wondering, where's the appraisal? They have not paid for an appraisal yet, because obviously there's a cost that will be associated with that. And so depending the outcome of the hearing, then they will order an official appraisal, because the numbers that I've ran, they hit over that $2,000 maximum that's allowed by state statute, where you don't need a formal appraisal. So that's why you all don't have a number in front of you.
Okay. So if we agreed, then there would just be a purchase price for that amount of property to this individual.
So I'm not quite sure by looking at this, so the vacation would be to the base of the stairs, basically? Is that what we're talking about? No?
No, just to step number 2 approximately.
Step number 2 of the stairs?
As you're coming from the home.
From the home, right?
From the home.
There's a blown
So-
up printout of what you are seeing.
Right here.
Oh, I see that
This is
line
15
that's there.
feet by
Okay.
53 feet.
On the actual photo that we're looking at, the one with the flag in it, and you see the
This is Paradise right here.
retaining wall that looks like it's used for parking. So how close would it be to that retaining wall, the end of the railroad ties? So it'd be right up against it, wouldn't it?
It'd be like the second step. It'd be like all the way.
All the way up there?
Up there is the.
So you'd be taking that out?
Well,
When needed, we could for sure. The water meters are also in front of all that stuff. So, you know, once the street started being improved, the new owner knows that they might have to do that for sure. And utility poles are up by the house, right, Wyatt?
yeah. Something that's confusing, you know, when you have right-of-way, people make driveways across right-of-ways all the time, and that's not considered an encroachment. People tend to get landscaping and stuff out into the right-of-way.
Yeah.
And so stairs access, you know, are in the right-of-way. I mean, they don't have any choice with the terrain there if they want to get access, you know, and they didn't have any choice. I think at one time, the area that's shown as parking actually had a cover on it that's been removed, you know, but, you know, first of all, a lot of people that buy the property or own the property didn't realize where the right-of-way was. They were using it based on the fact that the road's here and we're 50-something foot from the road. And so I mean, obviously they wouldn't drill a well if they thought they were drilling it off of their property. So a lot of these things that you're looking at and you can call encroachments because they're on the right-of-way are just stuff that they've been using to access the property or to utilize the property along there. So, you know, but, and I kind of agree, to try to take all that stuff 50 foot in front of their property, and get it cleared up, you're looking at a big area that would impact any development or anything that would go along the right of way there. I think there's still some room to do a little bit on that side of the road, as far as expanding the road, but if you're not gonna be able to go very far, or it's gonna cause a lot of work anyway.
like I say, and some people have said, well, we don't see where the hardship is, but if it's your property and you're trying to get a loan on it, or trying to sell it, or trying to do anything with it, it creates a hardship. And of course, Paula's here, she wants to speak to that. She's the owner, of the property, and she lives out of state, and so she hasn't been here to be a part of all the discussion that we've had.
Well, and I can appreciate that, but, looking at this, it looks like it's the deck, the driveway, the stairs that were all built into the right-of-way. And yes, driveways go across right-of-ways all the time, but in this case, this driveway even, you've got a wall on the left-hand side, you've got the railroad ties on the right-hand side, which would preclude any type of, there's a very small area there where somebody could pull off to the side of the road if emergency vehicles are coming, and if we needed to widen the road, then that's all got to come out at some point. And the way, not in the next year, not in the next 5 years, not in the next 10 years, but at some point, it's very conceivable that we may need to widen Paradise Canyon. And the development that has taken place there is all going to have to come out at some point. So all that I'm seeing, the purpose of this is just to, there's a question, what happens if it's not? And in the draft minutes, it said something that it would have to be a cash sale, as title insurance would not cover this since the structure crosses property boundaries. So the property could still be sold, but they wouldn't be able to get title insurance. It would have to be a cash transaction. You'd never be able to get a loan on it. And we've got other properties that are kind of that way too in the village. There's some that have to be a cash transaction moving forward. But I think that this vacation, all it's going to do is just clear it up so that somebody can get title insurance, but it doesn't solve the problem. So I don't see the point.
What I'm saying is, and I agree with a lot of things you're talking about, and that's why we've asked for a minimal amount just to clear the building itself.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to expand and get more of that. The problem you're noting, the stairs and the driveway and stuff, that's going to continue to exist. And you're right, if there's an expansion there, the city would still own that, would still have right of way, and they would have the rights to remove that and do whatever they needed to get the road expanded. So we're not.
Although I could see at that point, then either a new property owner or a future property owner or somebody would say, well, but now we have no access to our property because it's too steep of a grade.
We can still park on the street, I would think. I was thinking about that while you were talking. Once we expanded the road, there would be room there still to park on the side of the street, if that were the case.
Well, and I think you're right back to when you start expanding the road, the people that are engineering it have to take into account how people are going to access their property, and it would be very difficult in there, without the road being raised some to have a good access. And I would say it doesn't have a good access now. I mean, they paved it simply because, to help get up the grade that's there. The property itself with the hills, without trying to remove a massive amount of dirt, and, they're not gonna get any more parking area or any more usable stuff on the lots they've got there.
I just look at it as, does this solve the problem that was created because back in the old days, it was just Wild West here and people were just building wherever and they would never pull permits? Or does this resolve that issue, or does this just simply put a Band-Aid on it and allow it to move forward, kind of kick the can down the road, as it were? So that's where I'm at.
Anyone else?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, and this is directed to Director Cerna. When P&Z met to discuss this, and I only read the draft minutes provided, their feeling was, after all of this discussion and consideration, that it be approved with one dissenting vote. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And one of the, the reason I bring that up is they take their responsibilities very seriously, and one of the concerns I think they had was whether it was permitted. It wasn't. That's water under the bridge. And the other one was by Mr. Byers on that committee, who I believe they took a 10-minute recess or a very small recess and looked at the permitting that occurred or not. And then when he came back, he said, in view of all of this, reading from the minutes, that was the reason that he felt it should pass. Is that correct?
So Mr. Byers did move to approve it. Let me review it, how he spoke. So I do see here where he asked if the road goes through the property. Is that the section you're reading? Yes. And the road does not go through that property. I think he was speaking in general where the village has that issue, where our road does go onto private property such as Fern Trail, and we've been working to clean that up. So it was more general as opposed to this one, but we do have those issues where it involves a prescriptive easement as opposed to a vacation, but vacation ultimately does clean up the access issues. But we did take a recess during the planning commission to check our records, and that's what had indicated we'd only had a roof permit since 1979. That's as far back as we checked.
18?
No, 1979.
Oh, I thought you said 1879. Maybe I need to go to the hearing aid store with you next time.
I can probably get you a discount.
You think so?
Well, I think, quoting him, he said that based on the foregone findings of fact, and then he cites the statutes 5473, 5492, 54283, and 54285 of the Village Code, I move to recommend that the Village Council approve the request to vacate a portion, doesn't say how much, of Paradise Canyon right-of-way to be absorbed into the property located at 236 Paradise Canyon. So I think in looking at this, we need to look at all the information afforded and the reasoning of those individuals who are presented with this kind of issue on a daily basis or a monthly basis. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone else?
I'd like to ask Samantha about, could you explain the perspective permit where it's talking about that, that if the road was widened and it did go through property, that it would be a prospective permit or prospective right of way?
Prescriptive easement?
Prescriptive, I'm sorry.
So that wouldn't pertain to Paradise Canyon Road. The prescriptive easement would be that if it was being utilized for over 10 years and maintained for public access, that there would continue to be a prescriptive easement through private property that our road cuts through.
So if there was approved and they did want to widen the road, that would cause no hindrance as far as going through, you would just go ahead and get the prescriptive easement.
So that wouldn't, that term wouldn't apply here at all.
Wouldn't?
They would flat out own their living room, which is cutting into our right of way at this point, basically.
Living room.
That's the issue. Their stairway, if we did not have them include that in the vacation, all the way to the bottom of the stairs, and it still remained public right of way, their stairs, that would give us the ability, if we decided to do any utility work or any kind of road widening, that we would take out their stairs, just like if there was development in any other easement. There's an understanding that if there's a fence through an easement, that can be removed at any time by the utility companies.
Okay, so I'm not really clear on how far out, because you said you're asking for a partial. So exactly how far out? Because I can't really. And there's they requesting for.
So
Okay.
currently, their request is to go only to the second step, which is basically the end of the retaining wall.
So essentially 25 feet or something like that?
15 feet.
50?
15.
Oh, 15 feet.
Yes, sir.
So,
And
so the
not-
water meter would still be in our property, and it would just go, basically, you see where the parking is, and there's another color photo on down in your presentation,
Yes.
that you can actually see the house,
You're right.
and you see the railroad tie parking area and the steps. So you'd be going to those railroad ties. She's gonna show you there.
Yeah, I saw those in the
We
deal there.
wouldn't be going all the way to the bottom, but stopping here.
Okay,
That's where this line
okay,
is.
so the line is up here.
It's hard to
and
see
not-
with the grade
So
change.
that's on that's all the way up there is on.
So this is the line here. That's where it exists now,
That's public right
and
of
they're
way.
looking to go this way.
Yeah, they built, it's a lot over. I mean, we run into this from time to time, but that's a main artery for a lot of folks.
So we want to do, 15 feet from there. Okay.
We're just trying to clear the house.
Sure.
The house that's encroaching. Something that's confusing, people love to talk about prescriptive easements because you acquire those through usage over a period of time. But what most people don't realize is you don't get prescriptive easement without going to court and suing for a prescriptive
Right.
easement. And then the judge says, yes, you have a prescriptive easement and gives it to you. And so, I mean, it's kind of confusing because they've used this stuff for a long time, but there's no prescriptive easement without them taking the village to court and saying, we've used this for 40 years and so we should have some right to use it. All of a sudden, you're looking at all kinds of expense and time to go to court and try to establish any rights through prescription, which a judge has to give you. It just can't say, well, I've been using it for 10 years, I got a prescriptive easement. It doesn't work that way. The judge has to say, yes, you have a prescriptive easement, and the court's going to award that to you. And so when you start talking about prescriptive easements, it's a little bit confusing when you're talking about, it's acquired through time, but it's not acquired without the court saying you've acquired it, so.
And I'm sorry for the confusion that did cause during our planning commission meeting. I think that was just a term that was thrown out. It does not apply to this case. What we're seeing here is an illegal encroachment into public land.
And it's when it's noticed, right?
Exactly.
Because you have stuff that, when it's first brought to, somebody can say, I've been using it for 50 years, but nobody knew that it was being encroached on, because we've seen that in other areas. But when was it identified, and then if nothing was done about it? That's what we've learned in court before. So did you have something, Jim?
I just wanted to further clarify what I felt, committee member or committee chair Byers was talking about was, he was mentioning that there are so many areas in Ruidoso where the city's encroaching on people's lots, and then there's other areas where people are encroaching on the city property. That's why he felt that he had to go forward with making the motion or getting that approved. Did that help at all, Dr. Jackson?
No, it did not.
Because it's like true and unrelated. Two
I would
longs
say
don't make
that
a
was
white.
An oversimplification of the facts.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that.
All right.
And then, in 5473, it talks about vacation criteria. There's no convincing it, one. Anyone may request a vacation. A vacation may be approved if it is determined that there's no convincing evidence that any substantial, and y'all can read this and have, property right is being abridged against the will of the owner of that right, and A, subsection, the public welfare is not served by retaining the way of or easement, or B, the development made possible by the vacation results in a net benefit to the public welfare, which is clear more beneficial to the public welfare than the minor detriment resulting from the vacation. So that's, to me, the part of that. The whole thing is that says it right there.
And one of the points I want to make is we're 54 feet from the paved surface. We're asking for 15 feet, so you still got 40 foot of right-of-way that's owned by the village. And so I don't see where it's putting the village or the public in jeopardy of taking that little amount and trying to clear the encroachment of the house, And we originally approached and talked about an easement for that, and nobody thought an easement was that great an idea. You know, to just get an easement to it, and visiting with the title company, they didn't know whether they would even insure it if you just got an easement to it. So that's one of the reasons we sought vacation rather than go through an easement process.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And at this time, I guess we just need a motion for a decision. So if we can get a motion in the affirmative to.
Well, the way the recommendation is to approve or deny.
Yeah, to uphold or to approve the vacation.
Do we need to put that 15 feet in there?
No, it's all within the,
Okay.
that case PVC 2022.
I move that we accept the vacation of a portion of public right-of-way, 236 Paradise Canyon Road, Lot 48 of Block 4 of the Paradise Canyon subdivision, second supplement, Ruidoso, New Mexico, 88345, case PVC 2022-484.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Do we have any final discussion? Roll call, Jenny.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
No.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
your
Pass.
time, everyone.
Thanks, Sam.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for cooperating.
Thank you.
We will move on to, am I back on schedule now?
Yes.
One, I believe.
On regular item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for keeping me straight. Thank you very much. Regular item number 1, presentation by Raftelis on utility rate study overview and pricing objectives input. This is exciting because everybody is so happy with the increased gas rates by ZIA
Oh, yeah.
and the whopping big increase most of us got from PNM, which you can call their number and ask for a reread for January. So I've already been getting discussions from people saying we know it's going to cost more, but we're just getting started. And so we really kind of want to find out where we were at and some time frames. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. As the presentation gets loaded up, I'll jump into things. I know it's been a long agenda and got still some more to go. So try and speed things up. My name is Andrew Ream. I work as the project manager. I also work for Raftelis. We're partnering with SMA. As you all know, this village is going through an extensive master plan update where the rate study is a component of the overall study, and we're kind of trailing a relay race, with engineering firms starting things up and largely wrapping up the work that they've done. And we've been getting going, and now, we're going to be a little more front and center in terms of the financial implications and how we fund these things. So, next slide, please. Today, the agenda really just kind of outlines just some high-level information. There's a lot of details, like many of the things that council oversees and the village administers, and this is just one of those niche areas in terms of funding and utility rates. So before kind of coming with a really extensive presentation with all the findings at the end, we're going to kind of parse some things out as we go and get some direction. So the intent today is to provide a little bit of an overview, a bit of an introduction, set the stage for future discussions, as well as we've got a little bit of a homework assignment and a pricing objectives ranking. And that's the most significant component that we're trying to accomplish today, is introduce that, and then as you all complete your prioritized pricing objectives, we'll fold that into the mix. Next slide, please. So, in general, we get called in, and feel free to just kind of animate as I'm going. We often get called in when things are maybe out of alignment or in the case where there's maybe been a significant gap in time since comprehensive, similar type of these studies. And so I think both are true. For the case of the village, it's been some years since a significant comprehensive effort. Doesn't mean that things haven't been funded, doesn't mean that adjustments or increases haven't been in place by the village, but having that, kind of evaluation, also married with the master plan assessment. And often master plans and rate studies kind of go on their own or separate studies. And so it's good to have them in conjunction as the prioritized improvements are identified, and then the sort of financial impact of putting those in place is often a question that can follow. So having those two answered, next slide, please. And really, the funding part of it is to help, bring these, in alignment, if you will. And because capital improvements, capital requirements, whether they're regulatory-driven, expansionary-driven, or just based on age and deterioration, those are often the most significant in terms of these utility operations with the financial plans. It doesn't mean that operations and inflationary adjustments and maintaining services don't contribute. They tend to be just a little more incremental with capital facilities, sometimes incorporating sort of big ticket items that then somewhat accumulate on top of the others. So I'm going to talk about, and we break it into a three-step process. If you continue to animate and go to the next slide. This is how we approach these, and I jumped over and Raf Tellis, this is our specialty. That's what I do. I've been doing it for 20 years, working with communities throughout the Mountain West United States. Get a little bit into other parts of government and impact fees, but this is kind of the specialty and where we focus. So what we found is being very successful is often, whether it's from the customer standpoint or counselors or even administrators, they come and they want to start talking about rates. What is our rate? That's what, it shows up on the bill, what we're charged. And that's often the outcome, and that's one of the last legs. But before we kind of focus in on rates and whether it's tiered and fixed and, this and the allocations, the bigger picture financial plan and the multi-year evaluation needs to lead. Because if we're looking at, making up numbers here, 5% overall rate revenue adjustment next year versus 50% next year, well, we can talk about the rates that would generate or recover that amount, but until we get sort of buy-in or acceptance that, it's 5 or 50, rate structure alternatives, we can just sit here and meet again. So that's why we structure it this way. And that first step, that financial plan, is kind of the most iterative and comprehensive, folding in a lot of work with others, including the engineering firms and of course, village staff. Ultimately, it's around answering the question, how much do we need and really when? And making some of those prioritized decisions along the way. The second step is more of a technical one where we complete a class or cost of service evaluation because, utility rates are something that people understand, and they understand the systems, but boy, their neighbor, they'd love to have them pay more than them. Or, somebody down the hall or, different type of customer. So really that cost of service evaluation is how the industries come up with answering some of those, what is your impact on the system as maybe not an individual customer, but as a group of customers. And helping to kind of answer that. I know the village has done that in the past, but it's been some time. That leads into rate design, which is, a lot of times where we spend a lot of our public focus, whether it's alternatives or, customer bill impacts. But ultimately, it's how best to recover those from the costs from our customers annually. And there's often some options or alternatives to do so, where we can recover the same amount of money in aggregate by charging different types of users differently, or, kind of breaking things up a little bit. So let me spend a little time on the first step because this is so critical and it's so important. And this is our initial focus as we're plowing the ground and covering the other two as well. Next slide, please. When it comes to financial planning, there's really, some goals that we look at. And this is bulleted here as you go through the build of the slide. But basically, it comes down to three aspects. On the left side, there's we recover a sufficient amount of revenue, and typically these are user-funded. We do have a role for the SGRT fund within the utility funds for the village. But when we kind of net that out, our user charge and our revenues need to be sufficient to essentially fund our expenses and do so in somewhat of a thoughtful manner. You know, we're not going to increase rates and decrease. So it's kind of a little bit more of the short, medium, and long term. And then achieve some financial objectives or thresholds. So it's not just, funding the expenses, but exceeding debt service coverage targets and exceeding operating cash reserve targets. These are some things that we're evaluating, we're going to recommend as part of the plan. There may be a loan covenant, but it's prudent to set some of these that are a little more restrictive, a little more conservative than what a legal minimum may be. And for things like, we're in a drought, or, other types of reasons, we just don't want to go on the razor's margin. And these are sort of the best practices. So in the next slide, and this one's a little busy and it's got a lot of boxes, I'm not going to read this all to you, but the iterations are how we get there. We start with sort of the current financial environment, whether it's cash or, the budget. And then we blend in, because we're forecasting, we're projecting out into the future. So there's a lot of inputs, there's a lot of assumptions about, growth, consumption, what inflation looks like. I mentioned capital plans, and we bring that in kind of this process to both help prioritize, make some decisions. And we've got some of those constraints coming in, whether it's, some of these targets. And the product ends up being some different alternatives or scenarios where we may look to fund the same set of plans in a different manner or mechanism, different external capital funding, different timing, or sort of, responding to maybe different growth environments, some sensitivity analyses, and or really maybe different sets of capital programs themselves. So we want to vet this, and we'll certainly land on a base plan, but getting some buy-in on these early on in the study saves everybody a lot of time, as well as lets us focus a little bit more. The analogy earlier was 5 or 50. Well, if we don't have some level of agreement or buy-in without formal approval, then it doesn't make sense to kind of go through and show you 4 different ways to get 50% next year. Well, maybe that sort of buy-in may not be there initially. And I made up those numbers. That's not a lead-in to initial recommendations, just looking for stark differences. Next set of slides, please. The cost of service, you'll notice in the next slide, there's not a lot of detail in this one. It's, one of those technical kind of things that I could talk for hours about, and I may be one of the only people that would like to hear me talk about it for hours. So I will save everybody. The end of the day, it's really how we apportion and recover our costs. It's not just simple as residential and non-residential, but that's often the kind of the vast majority of the customers that we have, and there can be some additional types and flavors in there as we go through this evaluation. We look at it separately for each utility. That's one thing that I want to sort of highlight, that we look at water, solid waste, or sewer separately. This will lead into, and we'll have some findings on this, really the rate structure and the rates themselves. And so this is where we're looking to get some input from this meeting. So if you go to the next slide, this I like using this in these types of discussions where there's a lot of different ways of recovering water rate pricing. This gives a little bit of a kind of history of metering, but also really how volume rates have been recovered. I'll highlight the inclining block structures, what the village has today, and within the West and the Western U.S., really that price information and behavioral changes where most communities sit. So, I don't think there's a question that we shouldn't meter it or that we shouldn't charge based on volume. It's really kind of how. And it's within this right kind of side of things that I think there are alternatives we'll evaluate. We may maintain, next slide please, the current structure, and it may just be some differences. That's really what I'm sensing, is that it's more enhancing and kind of adjusting around the structure we have, and then some sort of bigger questions. So what is up front is the just water rates for residential and our non-residential group. And I just want to highlight a couple of things as well as remind folks that, aren't as intimate with their utility bill or the rate structure itself. There's a fixed component for both residential and commercial. For residential, it's per dwelling unit, and then their volumetric components. For the residential set of customers, again, this is per dwelling unit, we see, first 3,000 gallons, same as non-residential. That's in that base or minimum amount. And then we start charging, and for residential, we've got some narrow groups, and we sort of step that up, the next 2,000, and then we get into maybe a little bit more of the outdoor discretionary water tier. So if they've got a customer that's using more than 20,000 gallons in a month, they're going to be assessed $42 per 1,000 gallons. Sends a really strong pricing signal that, well, we discouraging use or certainly charging for it. On the commercial side, it certainly makes sense to have different blocks, different types of users, and we're also sending some pricing signals there. But this is the existing structure, and certainly, sewer and wastewater, different components, but this fixed and volume or straight fixed in some cases. Next slide, please.
If I might, real quick. Like I say, my name is Russ Doss. I'm with Souter Miller, and we're doing the oversight on the master plan, and Ralph Tillis is working with us. That last slide is really important because, as you guys know, the water conservation has become extremely critical. The state engineer's office looks at your gallons per capita per day use every year, and every city in New Mexico is trying to reduce that. And these water rates, the inclining block rate is one way to reduce it. And so, like I say, they'll be looking at those strongly with the residential and the commercial.
Have you looked at our comparison to other communities? Because we've always been shown to be pretty big water savers. And when was it we did this water rate study? You remember how full, Joe?
I would say about 7 years.
7 or 8 years ago is what I was thinking, where we implemented this. Our whole problem was we found out we were pulling I'm not going to go into all that Democrat, Republican stuff, but we were selling it for cheaper than what it cost us to produce it, and we made those changes.
That was back before I came on council, right before.
How long you been on council? 8 years?
9 years.
Mayor Crawford, it was 2014 is when the village
2014,
adopted the
okay.
ordinance.
Because I remember sitting in the audience and I had my own opinions of what was going on.
And so, we made a change then. It was pretty drastic, but what we've always seen is that per gallon use per person, that we're really shown as being conservative on water. We've changed things. We don't water our yards. We don't do those kind of things. And trying to, make it that is this the best model? And we did that because so many of our people had children, in that range to the $3,000. And then some folks, that had a lot more that were abusing the water, we thought, then we raised those prices. But so that model was the best that we had at the time.
Yes, sir, the inclining block is a very good model, and like I say, you do have a good structure there with trying to, for low-income individuals with the minimum rates, taking care of those, so that is really good. I haven't seen the latest GPCD scores that you have. I do believe that you're correct, that you are better than a lot of communities. Some communities are very bad, some communities are medium, and I think you guys are probably better than average. I still think with your goals from your water conservation, you still have some ways to go.
Yeah,
So-
and I agree.
And that's why, looking at the possible commercial, industrial, things like that, but I can turn it back over and let Andrew finish his presentation, but thank you.
It's certainly something that we're evaluating, and as Russ indicated, kind of GPC, gallons per capita per day, is one way from community to community. Even that is tricky, particular communities like Ruidoso that have, say, seasonal visitors that come in that aren't part of the full-time population as well as part-time home, so this can where your denominators can maybe a little different than community that is more year-round residents. But setting kind of that aside, there's some tools that we look at, and I will say that the outdoor water use for residential customers as a whole is much lower than what I was expecting. Certainly looking around, you're not seeing a lot of large yards, but I live in the Denver metro area, and if you ran that for, say, Denver metro area communities, the usage and the amount that goes, treated water on people's landscaping is much higher in most communities than what I'm seeing in Ruidoso. So that's a good outcome of previous efforts, but also means that the low-hanging fruit may be somewhat taken. So So it's something to balance. Now, before we get into the definitions, I wanted to, using some of the initial data and really at a high level, just sort of compare and contrast some of the key sort of telling statistics or outcomes. So just from the number of accounts themselves, vast majority, and there's most of the communities that we work with and most utility systems are mostly residential, to the tune of over 90% to 8%. So then, okay, we probably get 90% of our revenue from residential, or we've got 90% of our volume, and this is where we see a little bit different dynamic, where those non-residential accounts on average use a lot more water per account than say a residence. So the volume side is more 2/3 non-residential, about 1/3 residential, just in terms of the volume of water sold. When it comes to the revenue side, next slide, please. This somewhat follows, but by class, we recover about 80% of the revenue from non-residential customers as well. So I think this plays to a little bit, the volume users and ultimately when you get through the tiered rate structure, as well as maybe residences have been a little bit more, I had those reversed, a little bit more, using things a little bit more wisely. So the counts and the volume aren't quite the same, but in terms of the revenue itself, I was focusing a little bit on that one.
So
Sorry,
can
I
we-
had my legend off on that
Can
one.
we back up just on that one?
Sure.
To the water use by class. So am I looking at that graph? 8% is using 32%?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the colors, I'm kicking myself for my choice in colors. These are coming.
I was just wanting to make sure I was still
Similar.
following that. The commercial is, and I'm having a hard time, that's why I was looking, residential is 68% of the water use.
Yeah, as opposed to 90% of the count. So the relationship's still there. I apologize. I
No,
flipped
no,
them as I
you're
was talking
fine. I
through.
just wanted to make sure I was clear on.
Right, so commercial is using 32% of the water, but only providing 18% of the revenue.
And some of that is kind of leading into the next slide is how we're recovering it. But certainly the revenue, the fixed versus variable. And so by fixed, this is the base rate, the fixed charge, kind of, $33 on water. And then on the volume side, so about 3/4 of the revenue comes in from combined residential, commercial together through as fixed charges, and about 25% from the volume standpoint. So that is really good revenue stability. And that it's one of the pricing objectives I'm going to kind of leading into. But there's some very good things about that structure, but we're also, recovering less on the volume side. So, sending that pricing signal, there may be some other, outside of price, some additional tools in the toolbox to maybe get some better outcomes with some of the commercial customers. So these are just some things behind the scenes. Typically we don't see in the West as high of a fixed revenue stream, but for communities with variable service populations, high levels, resort communities, if you will, second homeowners, that's where we see this higher number. So again, these are, I wouldn't say that these are, off, or I'm not taking away a ton of this, other than, some of the things that we expect, as well as a little difference, uniqueness within the village, and some of those previous decisions, thoughtful decisions that set and established this rate structure. So these are just kind of some high-level insights, and tried to manage the level of detail and how far down we wanted to go today when it comes to some of these statistics. Any additional questions before I jump into the review of the pricing objectives?
I have one. During the last rate analysis, you all remember Ray De La Vega.
Yeah.
But there was a particular element that came forward, that came to light during that, and that was let's just say the non-revenue water, the leakage, and that's when we became aware of that. So that was also factored in, and also became an enlightenment to us as far as addressing the infrastructure and the delivery system, the pipes and such. So how does that play into your analysis? As far as the non-revenue water and also leakage?
Yeah, the non-revenue water is critical. It's, you pump and you withdraw so much water to get your production values each year, and then you sell as much as you can, and then the difference is the non-revenue water. Sometimes non-revenue water can be a decision by the city to not charge for water in the parks and things like that.
We account for all that.
Yeah, a lot of communities are beginning to.
Fire hydrants,
to meter
everything.
And charge for that, and they keep track of fire hydrants like that. But even then, the fire hydrants, are you charging your fire department for that? Or is this because, okay, because that's a good point. And it ends up coming down a lot of times just between old metal water lines that are leaking, and there's not much you can do about that other than replace them over time.
And we've been actively doing that, but Joe, I saw a figure not too long ago from a meeting that even though we're actively, aggressively, as much as we can replacing them, we're still having a lot of water loss because we're having new breaks and new this, and we're guesstimating on breaks, and that number's figured in also.
Yeah, and you guys are at a very tough position here in the mountains with the freeze thaw, with the incline, the grades, and asbestos cement pipe and things like that. There is a lot of breaks that just happen that aren't experienced by their communities. So yes, it's a hard, every community is having a really hard time getting their non-revenue water down. I think you guys are doing a good job with your efforts, but yes, it does. The more non-revenue water, it does, you have to pay for the water that's produced. And so basically, you're paying for water that's not being sold.
And that's really the impact is more kind of on the operational side is the cost of, and kind of the efficiency. When it comes to the pricing, the recovery, this is the amount of money we want to recover. So, I mean, it certainly is a significant item, and impacts, but from a sort of pricing or rate standpoint, it's a little less of a direct one because that's based on the metered usage or those that we're assessing and charging. But the costs of, and the inefficiency of pulling water out of the ground, treating it, and then, however, it's, not getting to something that we're charging for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump into the objectives, and really the intent, as I talked about, is just to introduce these. I think they're pretty straightforward. The danger of this type of exercise is that we all bring our own sort of backgrounds or our own understanding of what something may mean, rate it, and then we may take away something that was a little different than intended. So that's really just trying to get everybody on a kind of equal playing field when it comes to these objectives for pricing. And then the other component, if you jump ahead a couple to, yep, that's the one. So I guess just a couple bits of background here is that there's no right answer. This reflects the kind of preferences, the values of the community. These are all important things. All these 10, there aren't throwaways in here, but it's the difficult job that governments are often placed into where we're having to prioritize and rank things that are all important. So that's where this exercise comes in. Just a little bit of an analogy. I mean, in terms of some levels of customization, I'm seeing this in the rate structure itself. But from a kind of personal standpoint, my family, we like citrus, we like lemons. If our family gathering, someone's making hollandaise sauce, they're going to double or triple what it says to put in the lemon juice. We have others that have married into the family or maybe get invited, and they that hollandaise is just too sharp for them. But just a little bit, that's one of those things. And now if I go to somebody else's, I'm like, where's the lemon in the hollandaise? I don't like it very much. It just, it's how, whatever our preference is. So I just use that as a little example because I think it's analogous community. That, sometimes, people are expecting that there is a right answer. And it's really what reflects the values of the community itself. Next slide, please. As I said before, these are the 10 objectives, and we're basically asking you all to rank them, from highest or most important for you, and for the village utilities to least important. And I'm going to just highlight and walk through each one of these. Before I get into the individual objectives themselves, we want to show an example of an outcome of a similar process that we completed. Next slide, please. For the town of Jackson, Wyoming. It is part of a comprehensive rate study for Jackson. So this was the outcome where the community landed, and it just, you'll see their top objectives were water conservation, affordability, revenue stability or predictability, and equity. So this is sort of a statement of how we kind of turn these into more of the community values around these objectives, and this helped us narrow in on some changes for their water and sewer utilities and those rate structures. So let's go through each one, and like I said, I'm not going to read each one, but just try to highlight what they mean and in terms of the evaluation. I'll talk a little bit about the next steps. So next slide, please.
And the reason he's going through these is because you guys will be voting at the end, and so you'll be putting those in order from 1 to 10, so that's why they're going through each one.
So revenue stability, this is really just the certainty year over year, and also the kind of fixed versus volumetric component. It's not necessarily that simple, but that's basically the fluctuation of your revenue year over year. Those communities that may do it more volume or higher percent volume, when the sales aren't there, the revenues fluctuate. Or if, we're telling customers, hey, we're in a drought, we don't have as much supply, we need you to cut back on discretionary uses, well, then the revenue falls. And usually the costs don't fall at the same level, almost always. The next objective, now this gets into the equity from one type of customer or class of customer to the others. And so we've got some examples, but residential versus non-residential, say businesses versus homes, or irrigation-only customer classes, or users that are part of non-residential versus, say, residential or those that use both indoor and outdoor. And this is just in terms of the impacts and demands they place on the system relative to how we recover that through the rates and fees that we assess. They're also in the next objective, equity within a class. And so residential is a good example here where we've got single-family detached residential or multifamily residential in multiple buildings and a single service line often coming in. And so those types of users, a little bit of a different blend, but they're the same sort of class of user, if you will. Broader residential classes. And so maintaining equity within those different types of, within a class of customers. The next slide is a little bit outside of this evaluation simply because the capital recovery fees and the impact fees, TAP fees are established. Sometimes they're with this type of study, but that's certainly something the village has done separately with other types of impact or TAP fees. With that said, that within the West and growing communities, there's often an ethic that sort of growth should pay its own way. And so those one-time fees are an element of that versus, existing customers maybe expanding facilities and then growth comes in and kind of that dynamic and trade-off there. The next slide, the next objective, speaks for itself, conservation pricing, and in terms of the signal we're sending customers through our rates and through the bill they receive. As we get into kind of the demand management, the next slide, this one's a little different. This has to, peaking and the peak usage of demands for water system are very impactful in terms of the system that needs to be designed. So those customers that use more in peak periods and less in lower use periods are more expensive to serve. So this demand management is often from a rate structure around sort of peak shaving and trying to reduce really that upper end peak for those customers because that affects the system and sort of the cost of the system and certainly can influence capital as well as operating aspects. So for some communities, that's really a big target is get those peak users, shave those peaks so that we don't have to go out and acquire as much water.
Even in a community like ours where it's tourism driven and it's always related around holidays and summer activities, how do you promote that with people that are new to the community?
There can be some rate structures that are focused less on sort of that fixed amount of water that you demand and more on the relationship between that peak to your average monthly use. So seasonal customers can be a little bit harder if, they're not occupying the residence, if you will. And some of that peak season, that can be maybe one of the downsides of that type of approach. But this tends to work a little bit better with non-residential customers, although there can be those that, and I'm getting into the rate structure, maybe a little too far. But that's where, it's a valid comment and concern. And like any of these, there can be some trade-offs and some downsides as well.
And I think the key thing is like the industrial, commercial would have more control than the residential would. So, and they're really the ones that can say, no, we're gonna do this in the middle of the night versus doing this during the peak hour of the day.
Yeah, and we're commercial light, industrial light. Our commercial is hotels and they're full. You need a shower, you're gonna flush, that kind of deal. And so it's in the cabins and things like that, it's hard to regulate, so.
So that may be a lower priority for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, we wouldn't want the village, the people that live here, to have to worry about demand management so that for somebody that's coming into our village. That, to me, that's not very
What they're
fair.
saying is create an incentive so people watch how much water they use during these peak managements to reduce it, so we can offer an incentive to them. But this would be more on the residential side, commercial side, I think. And then on the residential side, we have the increase in the per gallon usage once they go past a certain point, so that becomes and I understand that, I was just trying to put it in our model, and I didn't know how we would do that, but anyway, there's other things to look at for sure.
Similar to what electric utilities do in big cities especially, because there's a lot of draw during the summer, during the peak time during the day, and they reward you with lower prices at night. So do your laundry at night instead of during the day, things like that.
Yeah.
With water system, I don't know, man, that seems like it would get
Yeah.
very confusing.
Well, some of it can be structural. Replacing older water-using devices can be a way. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, you didn't. You just reminded me of a certain hotel we recently checked into that had no hot water during the day.
Oh, yeah, I remember that hotel.
And it did create an.
Maybe that was part of the incentive.
Incentive, yeah, to shower cold.
They called
Cold shower.
We have hot water. Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't use the shower then, so.
And the groundwater in Santa Fe is very warm in the winter.
So to kind of continue on through the next objective, essential use affordability. This is around maintaining access to the, kind of environmentally and public safety access to water. The village does this in part through including the minimum amounts of water in the base rate or the base charge. But how important is that? And different communities, sometimes they subsidize it, sometimes they price it lower or kind of incorporate it within the fixed charge. So that isn't really kind of a question for those basic sanitary needs. Next objective, customer understanding. This is probably one of the ones from my standpoint that we underrate the most. But if we're trying to send a signal and message or, there's maybe a goal, customers understanding that and taking away from it. And that can, human behavior and all that can be tricky. And, different customers are different. But that's, some simplicity, and we can get carried away with really complicated stuff in my industry that, with good intentions, but maybe fall short of, does the customer understand it? And so that is something that I think is, important and probably more important the longer I do this from my perspective.
And that's even included in your water conservation plan, so there's activities you can do on your billing, on inserts, flyers, things like that. So hopefully, like say, design a lesser complicated billing structure and be able to explain it on your other support items.
And we would love that. We've been talking about that for years because we send out one water bill for solid waste, wastewater treatment plant, all of those things, and some of the things you covered earlier that you called something else we call level of service. What do you want to do for that? And then you figure that into your payment. So
They don't even understand the water bill. I mean, they think
No.
the water is, you're charging me how much just for water?
$125 for water.
Yeah, they don't take into account that solid waste, it's green waste, it's.
Picking up the pine needles in front of their house. So we've got to have a better You know, that's something very important.
I think you beat your head on that one.
Well, and it's also ongoing. You know, you get everybody educated and the customer base changes or, you know, kind of evolves. So, I mean, it's something that you got to keep doing and maintaining. The next slide, the impact to customers, and this is in particular if there's going to be, you know, potentially big change in the structure or a deficiency, you know, in terms of the amount we're recovering for a particular utility or potentially for all of them. And this is sort of that rate shock. You know, rates go into place and phone calls start going and you get a bit of a reaction. And how that may influence, you know, the choices, the alternatives. And I'll close with the last one. Ease of administration and implementation. This is something that, you know, again, you know, the technocrats on my side, kind of the, you know, rate nerds, you know, we may not have always appreciated this as much as I think that we should, but, you know, there's a level of complexity that then you've got to implement and live with. And it's extreme. Sometimes there are rate structures that would require a community to install a complete new billing system. An expensive amount, or, you know, hire more staff because it's much more complicated or individualized to administer it. And as we weigh some of these complexities in administration and implementation, sometimes that can, you know, take away and say, this on paper looks great, but we don't have the funds for $1 million for a new billing system. And so that, you know, sometimes that'll take some of the options off the table when we factor that in. Or, you know, people, you know, that are really into water and really pay attention to their bills, yeah, this is great, but, you know, the administrative costs of explaining very complicated things, people calling all the time, it often takes away from the larger message. So I guess that's kind of the presentation itself. In terms of the next steps, you know, we weren't intending to do this during the meeting, but we've got a website that we've set up and for you all to go in and basically do your 1 to 10. So I've got an email and sort of a question. I know we haven't sort of hashed out whether it's coming from us that basically says, here's the attachment. It's going to be 1 page. We used to do this in paper, and where, you know, each one of these 10 objectives, someone lists their ranking 1 to 10. We'd get the paper copies back and kind of score it ourselves. As technology has enabled this to, you know, we basically use a system where there's a link and you all would go in and basically do it instead of on the piece of paper, you know, through that. And as these get compiled, then they'll get scored. We've got it open, we've got it set up, so I need to get the link. You know, we can certainly talk. We were going to close it out at the end of the day Friday. And we've gone through this.
You're going to close out the 1 to 10 on Friday?
Potentially. We can
We're
keep
all
it.
going to be gone till Thursday on.
Okay, well.
Until Friday.
We'll be back Friday, so.
We can keep it open longer,
I mean, we can
which
work
is
on-
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll talk to the gentleman who's administering this and just, you know, basically ask him to keep it open a little bit longer. But the one sheet will have these definitions, descriptions all on 1 page, and then both a link as well as in the email itself, whether it comes from me or village staff is.
How far do you go in forecasting wages as this fits this model?
We look at operating expenses, and sometimes we dive in a little bit, you know, but that's a significant driver. It's a class that we look at. Personnel and benefits is sort of
Because it's
group.
very active right now.
Yeah, that's an inflationary factor, and I know, you know, certainly most of the communities I work with, you're experiencing personnel, labor cost increases that are above sort of those longer term ranges. So that's certainly something that we'll get a focus. You know, we kind of call out that expense type and may have a different inflation rate in the near term for those types of expenses. Benefits is also one historically that has tended to kind of, you know, one, it's a significant cost center, and it's tended to be higher than kind of longer range of inflation. So those are the things that are going to be part of our multi-year plan that we've already kind of started to put some numbers to. But labor, certainly in the near term, probably, well, I don't know. Well, this
like
is some of the
stock
stuff we're
market goes
testing.
up, so does our wages, but it never goes down. You know, benefits and all the different things. So we're looking at sustainability over long term, and that's becoming a key factor, even though we just did a review and thought we did real well. And then because other communities are giving raises, attracting staff, but they don't, when we ask them about long-term effects, they say, we're just trying to get through this year. You know, and we're wanting to be sustainable and make sure that we've done our long-term planning, and I just see labor as even materials have doubled and tripled, and so, you know, it's a Wild West for sure here, and but one thing I like is here about implementation and sticker shock, our bill, you know, the citizens seeing those things, you know, because my Amazon account went up $50, but hey, that's okay, but my water bill went up $5, big deal.
Right.
And so, I get it, and I think this is really needed. But we'll work on this, and we can probably have discussions on the way to Santa Fe to get a lot of this stuff answered with it between us so that we can go online and respond to it quickly enough.
And you can do it on your phone, right? So you can do it on.
Oh, just through your email?
You can do it on phone or computer, either way. I was cautioned, you get a more robust experience through a computer, but the phone works as well, and that's the way I tested it out, and so.
Well, the council's used to ranking
I didn't feel
things.
cheated at all.
Not at all?
No,
You
I
got the
didn't.
full experience.
I think, well, it could have been better, I guess.
Well, this council's used to ranking things with capital outlay and all those different things, so I've no doubt that we'll figure it out with some discussion. Okay.
As you go through and do your rate analysis, are you looking at maintaining the basic rate structure that we currently have, where you have a base unit which includes 3,000 gallons, or are you looking at all options like a connection charge and you pay for every gallon you use after that?
I don't want to prejudge the outcomes. I would say that the fixed and volume component seems to work well. So I don't anticipate that we're going to be looking at, 100% fixed, 100% volume. Whether it's 3,000 gallons or maybe a different amount in that base, I think that's on the table. And certainly the number of tiers and kind of the tier pricing, as well as the amount of the fixed charge. Those are, I think, going to be the more central items. There may be identification of certain users that we may want to call out. And so I think that's going to, I don't see us coming in and wanting to completely change it. It's more, I think, improving it on the margins, as well as kind of picking up with, the successes and some of the things that this rate structure has helped do for the village.
I think we've been fairly successful. I think what's going to boil down to is increases in material and
The
labor.
reason I ask is because I hear from some people, well, hell, I'm paying for 3,000 gallons. I'm
Might
going
as
to
well
use
burn it.
So I got a drip. My toilet's running. I don't care. I'm paying for 3,000. I'm only here on the weekends or something like that. And they just allow that to go. So when it gets into conservation, that might be something that would kind of encourage conservation. Because that's the way I grew up before I moved here. You pay X amount just to be connected to the water with nothing coming through the tap. And then you pay for every 1,000 gallons or whatever after that. And then when I got here and they changed it to 3,000 gallons, but I'll tell you, 3,000 gallons, we're doing really good because we used to be up to 4,000 or 5,000 gallons a month, and now we're under 3,000.
Well, and you were the big proponent of selling the T-shirts. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. You made a lot of money on those, so.
It's interesting that most communities are using 6,000 gallons, so you guys are being very progressive with using the 3,000. I think that's to be commended. The other thing about it is, when you talk about the non-revenue water, you have a leak control program. And the nice thing is, I think you guys got new meters a while ago.
And we're actually upgrading them currently to 5G.
And the interesting thing about meters is you can actually have some software that will identify ones that have leaking faucets. So rather than just trying to enforce it through the water bill, you can have those flags pop up and say that you're going to go talk to their house. And you can actually have some sort of a penalty just for that person, not for everybody, but just for that person, to get them to fix their leaks.
Right. Yeah, I've had it where on one of my rentals, the toilet was running, person went out of town for a while, they went and shut the water off to the property because it was running 100 gallons a minute or an hour, or not a minute, but 100 gallons an hour or something. It adds up.
And as Russ indicated, the AMI opens the doors with more information customers have access to. I would say that we're not quite ready to deal with that from the pricing standpoint, but I know that's coming. The analogy is the electric industry. They tend to, get some of the newer toys and implement them earlier, and so they end up tending to lead a little bit the time of day charges and some of the things that are coming through my local electric utility. I'd say water industry, we're not quite ready there. with that. But the notification on the leaks and the other types of just operational information that type of metering makes available is a game changer. Well, appreciate you all's time and attention on this. I know you got a lot of important things you're wrestling with just today, so thank you for
We
taking
appreciate
that.
this.
Yes, very informative.
And when do we, go ahead, Joe.
I was just gonna ask on, when you fill out that little, rate sheet as far as your rating, your different, is there any comment section in there? No?
But I feel free if you want to, I would, certainly with permission from Ron and staff, we'll take additional comments, or even if it's just providing, some of the things that, some of the comments or questions here, hey, I've had this question, or this was an issue in the past, those insights are invaluable. But the form itself doesn't enable comments. It's more binary.
Well, I'll make a quick comment then, since there's not really that long of a comment. But as far as, I think like the revenue stability and essentials use of affordability is almost married together, almost the same. But how we got to where our rate structure went is because us being a mountain community, and also the water is a precious resource, and also the water rights, trying to manage that. We're in much better shape, but we were looking at the revenue stability and conservation were almost married as the top priorities to try to get both at the same time. And that's how we ended up with this rate structure with the use, the 3,000 gallons, because it was proposed 2,000 one time. But because to try to help with the families and this and that, we went to 3,000. But that's how we got with this right here, is because of the revenue and conservation married together.
And if I might, just to let you guys know what's coming up, Andrew will be submitting some preliminary draft financial information and preliminary rate recommendations this next month. And so we might be coming back to you at your next council meeting with some preliminary information, just so that you know we'll see you again.
Okay.
Last question, time frame?
Well, I think, there's a pretty extensive schedule you want to handle. I think, Russ, this is probably a bigger picture.
This is the schedule that's on our, each month we have a master plan virtual update meeting. And there's a link at the end of each one of these to this schedule. This is the draft schedule. We still want to get some comments back from the village manager and the staff on this, but with some possible changes to the solid waste. But this is the schedule. So we're looking at potentially having some information back to you in March 15th, and then there'll be another submittal of the report in June, and then it'll go back to you for comments, and then we can have later on, I think at the process wraps up in August.
So your critical path stops in August?
Yes, in August is when we actually look at that. We'll bring it back to you, after you get the report, you can give comments back on it. We can probably have another work session if you'd like, somewhere in there to get feedback, or just direct feedback, however you'd like. And then from August through November, the schedule is built in with some possible rate hearings where Andrew could be available for public rate hearings and things like that, information for the public. And so from August to November, it's kind of up in the air depending on what you guys want.
Well, we need to time our public information, start educating the public on what we're doing and how we're doing, and then so that they're prepared, and then we'll have to maybe step this in. Okay, appreciate it.
So right now, your rate studies, is that going to cover water, wastewater, and solid waste? Because right now, you're just talking about water.
Right now, the three master plans have done the capital improvement planning, the staff analysis, all that information's been given to Andrew, and the preliminary solid waste. We're going to focus, because of some additional information that was requested on solid waste with possible privatization, things like that. That's going to delay that part of the process, but the initial information you'll get back right away is on water, wastewater, and wastewater treatment plant.
We asked about privatization?
Mayor Crawford, members of the
Tried
council.
that bull at one time.
Yeah, that was just, when we had that meeting with that private company, that was some discussion that we had, but we're looking at more on a regional basis, with possibly the county and the Rio Doso Downs, and combining the efforts on that.
and not on collection. So that kind of takes that off the table.
Yes.
Not on Ruidoso collection.
Yeah, we shot ourselves in the foot one time, and
Yeah.
So, yeah.
These are things that, little parts of the solid waste
Okay.
program that might be able to be performed more cost effectively.
gotcha.
And just in terms of the rates, it does cover water, sanitary sewer, kind of collection treatment, solid waste, forestry, and recycling is the comprehensive sort of scope of the.
And part of the reason I ask that is because if we're looking at, potentially adjusting the rates, more than likely they're gonna go up. Hopefully something goes down, but I don't know. If we're just gonna start hitting people wham, bam, here, everything's going up, then this one goes up a couple bucks, this one goes up, this one goes up. But when they get their bill, they see a big jump. And
Yeah.
we can.
$2 here, $2 here.
Yeah.
It might go up. Do you believe in magic?
Well, I believe in hope.
Okay. Okay.
I will say, and I'm trying to add to this, but there is a pretty thoughtful in the way that the master plan, the rate study were scheduled. There's a more thorough, lengthy evaluation and implementation timeline than what, probably closer to what a lot of communities that are going through changes experience. But sometimes, study, we start with public hearing, and I know, New Mexico's got some procedural steps that we'll go through that affect that. But I just want to say that we, from the sort of findings and recommendations presentation summer of 2023 to, it going into effect, there's more time, education, understanding, and, implementation. There's more time for that than what we often see, where it's usually, here's the rate, and then, maybe going into effect, a month or two later.
Well, we reduced the water, that whole bill by $17, and I had like 5 people notice.
Well, and that's because it was right when the gas bills went up.
Yeah, the gas bill went right up, same time we lowered ours, so. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Appreciate it. Okay, and I'm sorry it's taking so long, but this is par for the village. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on lease agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and Zia Therapy Center, Z-Trans, in the amount of $3,600 per year, and update on Village of Ruidoso transportation services. Mr. Anthony Montez.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. So this item here is, it's about the lease agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and Zia Therapy Center. It is for the rental, the lease of the office space there in the center, which amounts to 221 square feet of office usage. And also, the employees there with Z-Trans, they actually use the office for clocking in and clocking out, and office items that they need to do throughout the day and throughout the week. And Z-Trans actually utilizes the parking lot there of the community center to park the buses and whatnot. So yeah, that's what it is, and it's for $3,600 a year, which amounts to about $300 a month for the office space usage. And other than that, that's what the agreement's about. But Joe Harding here from Z-Trans, as well as his partner here to do a presentation as well, to update on some items with the transportation system in Ruidoso area.
Okay, I don't think we have a lot of questions about the rental. I think we just want an update. I know you guys, like everybody else, you're having a hard time finding help. And we've got, calls that people have been waiting an hour and a half that it didn't show. And so we were looking more on what are we, just like us, we're trying to figure out how to move things forward. So what are you guys doing?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, everybody. My name is Joe Hardin. I'm director of Z-Trans. Excuse me. It's been some trying times. In front of you, you'll see a ridership stat that I gave you. It's amazing where everybody else has gone down. It's actually kind of gone up here up until right now. 2023, we're still working on, so it's a very short item on that graph. What we're looking at is we are running a new modified brown route in Ruidoso. This is due to the fact that Ruidoso Downs had dropped their funding down to a level that we had to reduce service. We did have a brown and white route running. Now it's just the brown route. which actually there's 4 stops in Ruidoso Downs. One is Walmart, that's where we start the route, and it comes up through Sudworth, out to Meacham, in the Mountain Gods, and to the Travel Center and back around to Walmart. So it's covering the same areas that it did before in the village, but we have lost Paradise Canyon and Gavilan Canyon areas because we can only run one fixed route and one paratransit / senior dial ride instead of the 2 fixed routes that we had. We hate to do that, but we had to do that. And also because of a reduction of staff, using the P word, post-pandemic, it's still hard to get people into work, especially drivers. And I understand because they can make the same salary almost working at McDonald's, flipping burgers. So it's hard to get somebody to want to come and drive and have the responsibility of people's lives in their hands. And it's not just us. I've seen this statewide, because I'm president of the New Mexico State Board for Transportation, and a place like North Central Regional Transit District, Espanola, Santa Fe, the northern area, they've had to reduce 50% of their routes due to labor shortage, due to material shortage, as you mentioned before, and other stuff, and parts. We've got one bus that we can't get a part for. It's not in the United States. It's on emergency back order. We don't know when we'll get the bus. Has been down for a year now. Because we only have 2 drivers up here in Lincoln County, we need to have at least 6 to 8 drivers. We're down to 2. We are actively recruiting drivers. We just hired one, and hopefully he'll start in about a week and a half after he's trained, and we're interviewing another one tomorrow.
Hopefully they'll show up.
We go through the same thing, and then you hire them, and then they go to work somewhere else for $1 more. I understand that.
The text you as they're supposed to show up and say, oh, sorry, I got another job.
Yep. Don't even get that sometimes, but, the thing is, they gotta have a clean driving record. They don't have to have a CDL up here, because our passengers under 16 our buses are under 16 passenger. However, they do have to have a CDL physical. They're drug tested, so they have to be able to pass the drug test, and a current New Mexico driver's license. You'd be surprised how many come to us, they don't have a current license. We're like, sorry, can't do that. One came and we interviewed him through the whole process. At the very end, well, I do use recreational marijuana. No, we can't use you. Okay. So the problems we're having, with the labor and parts and vehicles, as you said, prices have gone up. Vehicle that cost us $71,000 3 years ago is now $163,000. It's just gotten outrageous, but the service that you're seeing here in Ruidoso, and why you're seeing a lot of people are saying, okay, the bus is late or this or that, is because we've had to go back to this one route for right now. If we can get the drivers in, that other route will start as soon as we get it in. And it'll be 2 routes basically here. The service in the Downs is going to be reduced still. We've also had to reduce our hours, and instead of running 6 a.m. to like 7 p.m., it's now 8 o'clock to 4:30 because of the 2 drivers. They're limited on the amount of time that they can work in the day by DOT. So it's a little bleak right now, but we do expect it to start coming back up, especially when a lot of people are going to have to go back to work. Whenever the emergency is lifted, we expect to see that. So.
Assuming they go back to work. It's every industry at ZIA. I'm Peggy O'Neill. I'm the Chief Executive Officer. Every industry at ZIA, every service we provide is having the same staffing issues. And so it's been very challenging. I know you all are seeing the same thing, and we are too. I heard a comment earlier about we've got to keep him, because even if he's got an attitude, we've got to keep him. This is where we are. And,
Yep, that's it.
And we're trying as hard as we can to get this positions filled.
Yeah.
And we just don't know what to do to get them filled. I've never experienced anything.
Well, hopefully
like that.
the governor doesn't extend the emergency and, along with the president.
Yeah.
which there's been rumors of that going on too. So in the scheme of things, when we're talking about ridership, have we done a survey on what the people are using it for? Is it just people going back and forth to the grocery store? What amount of those people are going to work and then they can't find a ride home?
We have not done a survey within the last 8 months, I know that. During the pandemic years, and we were kind of just trying to piece everything together and keep it going. And then with the fluctuation of not knowing if we're going to keep both routes due to funding and this and that, it's been a little like looking at a crystal ball. But yeah, we did do one study late last year. And we did find that the biggest use was probably for shopping and for work. The biggest stops were actually in education, the college, Walmart. We did not see a lot of like Paradise Canyon, Gavilan Canyon type stops that we thought we would see. And that's one of our reasons to drop those two areas as well. And the fact that it was dangerous to stop a bus on Paradise. I mean, come close to getting hit a few times, but we're probably going to launch another study. This is what, February? Would be in April, because in April, we'll be getting our in March, they come out with our, what we're gonna get for the next fiscal year, the award. So we'll have that and know exactly what we can provide, and we'll do a study on where people are going, what they're using it for.
So in the analysis, when we come up for funding next year, I know you're talking about we need 6 FTEs and we've got 2. We do this all the time. We always fully fund our budgets, so you have reserves left over. You're the financial person, where you're at. So, we want to provide the service. That's why we do these things. So I would like to see a study on how we do that, and if we're, the idea is to serve the customer, the person that's needing it. And I don't know if there's split shifts that can be done with that, but with the savings of having the FTEs, you may have to bump those wages up, just like we're all having to do, and figure out ways to do things. But, with the dropping of the Paradise Canyon route and some of those, you should have saved some in fuel and all those other things too. So, that's one of the things that we're asking is, the money that we've spent, is it gone or is it still there? And then will it reflect and maybe roll over some?
The money that you've spent, you're only charged for the service we provide. So when we're not providing the full service, we're not billing you for the full service. So there will be money reverted back.
Okay, well, then we
Well,
want to
that just
turn
doesn't
around
get,
and
that
reinvest.
doesn't get billed, so,
Exactly.
yeah. And we do know that the budget request will be flat for next year. And we're just assuming that things are gonna,
Loosen up.
More
Yeah.
riders and.
yeah, return to normal.
Right.
Your fiscal year, is it the federal fiscal year? So it
Our
starts
fiscal year is July to June 30th, July 1st. But the,
Okay, well,
Right.
I'm referring to here. So this ridership, it says,
Fiscal year, right.
starts July 1?
yeah, well, okay, October
Okay,
1.
so that's DOT, so that's October 1. Okay, and then how recent are these numbers? Because it says to 2022, 23, you've had 1,743 riders as of
That's
when?
because we've only, from October until January.
So
We
these
haven't
are-
reported
these are
February yet,
through
so
January?
that's October through January.
Okay.
Mayor, I had a question for Joe and Peggy. You said you would revert funds back to the village. Are you doing the same with the grants also? Are you having to revert grant funding back?
It's not that we revert funding back to the village. Being a cost reimbursement, you guys put in your local match, and that allows us to draw down the federal money. If we don't use that service, let's say we didn't do these 5 hours this week, your local match doesn't go in, you don't pull down the federal money. So it works out that we're only going to get down from both what we used. Now, the money that is left over at the end of the fiscal year, federal money, we don't get to keep it, it's gone. Your local match, we have not used. So it's still there, we don't revert it back. We only bill you we bill every month.
You're only billed for the service we
Yeah,
provide.
so you're not gonna, if you guys put in 200,000, we've only used 150, you won't be billed for the 200,000, just the 150,000.
It's still available in your budget, but yeah.
Just like during the last 2 years, we've had CARF and everything has paid 100% of the operating cost. So you haven't had to worry about that. So that's one good thing is you guys actually planned for that. And you kept your money back, which is great. Other places have not done that. And we're seeing the fuel cost way up. Insurance cost is extreme. Our insurance doubled this year.
Of course.
We're a nonprofit, so it didn't help. But yeah, it's all cost reimbursement based.
So Ruidoso Downs cut their funding to you, and the village provides funding. Does Inn of the Mountain Gods provide any funding?
We have Mescalero is one of the funding partners of this service, and they fund quite a bit.
Okay, so is it pretty much about what they've been providing? Have they gone down?
No, they haven't gone down.
Okay, so they're still up.
They're still up there.
Up there.
And that's why we cut the service to Ruidoso Downs is we cannot, the village is not going to pick it up and pay for it. They're not going to pay for it, so we had to reduce service. And rather than just totally reduce it, we drive, and especially since a lot of people here go to Walmart, it's one of the main things. I don't want people here not to be able to go to Walmart. And if they work at the track, they can still get to the track. So, other than that, yeah, I thought they were going to pull their service totally, but they did have so much money still figured in for this year. Now, I'm not sure what's going on next year, so.
Right.
I've been working with one of their counselors, trying to get them to come back into the service because they need it.
Right.
Especially the seniors. That's one of our biggest, for paratransit dial ride. They need that service more than anybody.
And that
I hate to
was,
see it go away.
for us, I know we're way up 1,700, but our seniors rely on a lot of that for doctor's appointments as
Yes.
well.
We see that for
I'm aware
houses,
of.
doctors, all sorts of things.
But that's the para.
Para,
That's the
right.
yes.
Because
But
what
the
I did.
seniors, it's hard for them to shop,
Right.
carry 4 or 5 bags if they have to go up that hill.
Oh, sure.
So senior dial ride is very important to them.
Because I just took your numbers that you presented, and you said that was from October through January of 1,743 riders.
Right.
So that's 435 a month, 101 per week, or 20 riders per day. That's not much at all.
Right now, it's not. And that's due to the cutback in service and running one route.
And the fact that in all our routes, and all the routes across the state, nobody has recovered their numbers from the
Right.
pandemic area.
So when did you cut down to one route in Ruidoso area?
Starting in October.
Starting in October? Okay. So these rates are reflective of just one route then?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you need
A motion, I'll entertain the motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the lease agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and Zia Therapy Center, Z-Trans, in the amount of $3,600 per year.
Second.
Ooh, you get the second, that's right.
does.
I get to vote too. If Jenny remembers, you forgot me earlier, but.
I know, I'm sorry. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Counselor Jackson.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
And Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Motion approved.
appreciate it.
And we are going to resume the quarterly transportation meetings.
Good.
That we set at the center.
I'm glad. Thank you for doing
That's
that.
a
And
formality.
thank you for coming up too,
Thank you
Peggy.
for having us.
Thank you, it's very good to see everybody.
Thank you.
We
Always
appreciate that.
love your meetings, they're just, I would love, we go to a lot of these kind of meetings, and you all are,
Well, good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'll tell you,
love how you,
if our council was like a lot of other councils that I have experienced, I would not be sitting on the council.
I agree. I just love the way you all are with your staff, and it's just wonderful.
Good.
It makes me want to move back there.
Well, we'll welcome you. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Discussion and possible action on memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso and Eastern New Mexico University, Ruidoso Branch Community College regarding the partnership to deliver certificate of degree programs.
Last but not least.
Yes, thank you so much, Ryan, hanging out.
Wow. And you stayed awake the whole time, too.
Barely. First of all, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, we appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you today. It's been very insightful, from the manhole eating covers to even some yellow shirts. I've learned some new language today that I can take back to my board. But with kidding aside, what you have in front of you today is a pretty simple MOU. And really, this has been a labor of love, I would say, over the last year, through the work of not only individuals at the college, but especially Cheryl, and with people like Tim Salazar, the chief, Adam, many other people that I know I'm forgetting. But this opportunity that you see before us, what we've already started is, over these last few months, we've trained 74 village employees in a number of different services, and that's something we want to continue to expand, is being the college for our community. This is an opportunity that we relish, and we're very thankful for the partnership. And also, hopefully, you've had the opportunity to see our facility and what we've been able to do there with your support and with our great community support into a college that we're proud of. And so this is just another way to continue that partnership. And, again, very thankful for everyone, especially, as I'd mentioned people before, but I don't want to leave out Ron as well and his team from the village manager staff. So before I go into questions, I also want to say too is I've already got the week after Labor Day down on my calendar for 2024. So Mayor, I heard that, and that's something, again, we'd love to partner on, and we've done a number of things just for facility usage to complement what's done in the village, and we're very thankful for that. Also, with that, thankful to the chief who's behind us, the Citizens Police Academy. We hosted a group of those students on campus, and the work that they're doing to help keep our village safe is wonderful. And then also Lieutenant Urban and his staff has also done some situational awareness training on our campus. So this is a partnership that works both ways. I know currently we're also working with individuals from the fire department about how we can continue to do trainings in that area. And Ron and I actually spoke this morning about still trying to figure out the right way to get water operators better trained, because one of the joys for me today was to see a village employee that was recognized that was one of our former students. And I think from the work of Cheryl and others, the goal, we all know right now it's hard to hire people. So anything we can do collectively to have people work up through your systems and train them, I think we all have to be for it, because we've got to train our own to keep them here.
Right.
Because all of the conversations today, I would just say ditto from the college aspect and from a citizens aspect. We see all those problems, and we're hoping that we can continue to be a small but growing help to that. So with that, again, over this last few months, we've trained 74 village employees in a number of different things, and I would stand for questions, but again, appreciate all the work that you do. It makes me realize that I have the easy job over there at the college compared to what you do as council and as the mayor, and just appreciate that partnership over the last few years that I've been blessed to be in this role. And also today, I also have Robin DeMott here. Robin is our Chief External Affairs Officer, who started with us in May, but has done a very good job of getting to know many people in our community, and that will continue to happen. So with that, would stand for questions, and again, thanks for listening to me today.
Any questions? Well, we appreciate you guys. It's nice to have a good working relationship, and you guys are always there and working with the developing skills in the classes for the things that we need in our community. So you guys have been great about that.
And the college looks so
Oh, it looks
nice.
spectacular.
Yeah, it just,
Yeah.
it looks really good.
Oh, and that rumor I talked about, $100 million deal, I found out where it came from, so don't worry about it.
Didn't originate with me.
No, it didn't originate with you, but it came from where we thought it did, so. I got a call from Las Cruces that a new lead development that the Ruidoso, the racetrack, City Downs and the college was looking at $100 million investment at the racetrack, and there's gonna be a lot of opportunities.
That's cool.
Yeah, for what? And so E&MU didn't know anything, we didn't know nothing about it, the track didn't know about it, and then they said, oh,
Are they putting a grow farm on the infield?
yeah, that was what it'd be, yeah.
Horticulture.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you guys very much, and I know y'all need something signed.
Do you need
I'm
a,
going to make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso and Eastern New Mexico University Ruidoso Branch Community College regarding the partnership to deliver certificate and degree programs.
second?
Thank you for waiting.
Oh, my gosh.
And then roll call, please.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
And Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Well, again, Mayor and members of the council, we appreciate it, and I know that you'll be traveling tomorrow up north to Santa Fe. And so, again, in the work that we do at the college, anything that we can do to assist in any of your efforts, please reach out, and we're very thankful for the partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thanks,
staying.
Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, and I have it right here.
Yeah, hang on for a signature.
And then we have one more item left on the agenda, but I'd ask that we hold that and move into closed session. When we come out of closed session, we'll move on to item 7. So if you could give me a motion for that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters concerning a contract for village manager, citing 1015-1H2 NMSA 1978. Further discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant, citing 1015-1H7 NMSA 1978. Finally, discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and or disposal of real property and or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso, citing 1015-1H8 NMSA 1978. Any action taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Jenny.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Okay, and we'll need Zach, need to be in the meeting, Ron initially. Anybody else that you can think of, Ron? Okay, that should be it. So this meeting is
In recess.
in recess.